that Alai accused him of being behind alleged social media attacks on his wife and allegedly pushed him, drew a pistol and struck him on the chest and jaw with it.
And before I left, there's one of them who said that, you know, Babu, you will be a governor of Nairobi. Then Alai became mad, and from that point, he stood up, pushed me, saying, you cannot be a governor of Nairobi. You sent people to attack my wife on social media.
According to Kilimani OCPD Patricia Yagon, the two politicians have already recorded a statement as investigations into the incident continue.
The MCA, that is the Kilelesho Ward, Alai, had a firearm which was confiscated and currently at Kilimani police station. The report was taken. The two politicians appeared before Kilimani police station at the DCI's office, made their statements, and we are here again today to interview the workers of the hotel, the management, with a view of understanding what transpired.
DCP leader Rigathi Gachagua has reiterated the party's commitment to a transparent and merit-based nomination process ahead of the 2027 general elections. Speaking in Githunguri during a Sunday church service at the AIPCA church, Gachagua said the party will ensure that all aspirants are judged on their merit and the will of the electorate without any preferential treatment based on political connections or personal loyalty.
Tutakuwa na free and fair nomination, na uchaguzi utaishia nomination. Na huyo kijana unataka kupinga Karongo, umpinge. Hata huyu Karongo ni rafiki yangu, lakini utaenda nomination Karongo. Hakuna direct ticket. Utaenda Nyoto, utaenda nomination. Wapi huyo kijana anataka kupinga Karongo? Anza campaign upinge huyu mtu. Ukimshinda na kupatia tikiti, yeye nitampanga. Neguo. Nataka nitangaze ya kwamba hakuna direct nomination, hakuna mapendeleo, itakuwa free and fair.
Armed men have violently stormed a village in Nigeria's Niger State, killing at least 30 people and looting shops, state authorities have said. The attackers emerged from a forest near the village of Kasu-1 Daji on Saturday and set fire to the local market, looted shops and kidnapped an unspecified number of people, police said. Attacks and kidnappings by armed criminal gangs known as bandits have been a problem in Nigeria for years, but reports in western and central regions have spiked recently. The attack happened just a day after authorities in Niger State announced a phased reopening of schools after mass kidnapping forced them to close as part of emergency security measures. In November, more than 250 students and staff from a Catholic school in the state were abducted. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who were initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't let me tell you. You saw the other parliamentary group meeting. People went there, sat, listened, looked at him. There was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
when you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, staki kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Presidency is fairly interesting in the sense that it will actually take us to a new consciousness.
Swali zile watu waulizi na swali muuliza na shangala ni aje kwani huku kunaendaje?
30 billion shillings annually on travel alone in public service.
A Kenyan can even demonstrate every single day of his life that Ruto must go. That is the only message of his demonstration. That is his right.
That bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and subverts the cause of those who are in the right.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
You have land, Dennis. Yeah. Okay, your own land. You use your own money to build it, and then you sell it to yourself.
But we don't want foreign troops on Kenyan soil.
But surely it goes a little bit deeper. This is it.
If you find the tree is withering, then you call the person who is managing that tree. Come around.
Yeah,
Why? Tell me what is
first of all, what's the problem?
Yes, what is the problem there?
How do we expect ourselves to move forward as a country?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
He himself actually has admitted that he bribed members of parliament, so...
he admitted that he bribed members of parliament?
Well, when he said...
The government.
Yeah, when he said that he gave the 10 million was for what?
We're always quick to point faults in somebody else before you look at your own faults as a person.
If it was Kanu's day, hii amuka naye leo, ungekuwa umeenda bali sana hii. So and we must celebrate you.
There are 600 million people now globally estimated to be living with diabetes in the world. So it is a major health problem. It's the largest single disease rising pandemic that we're dealing with right now.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Almost like it didn't happen, and coming into it at 11 minutes after 6 o'clock. And a very good morning to you on this 5th day of January 2026. We didn't know it was going to be, but here it is. And crossed over to the time where we're getting into a new year. And a very happy new year to you. Hope you're doing so well. It's 11 minutes after 6 now, just like we had said. And we're getting into it this morning. This is the Situation Room. Ndu here with you this morning. How are you? How have you been since the last time we had a conversation? It's been 2 weeks. It's been a day and one of celebrating the Christmas season, and then looking forward to and crossing over into a new year and looking into 2026, coming in through the 1st of January 2026, and now 4 days into it, and we come back into Kenya's biggest conversation. This is the Situation Room, and I hope you're doing well. I hope everybody in whatever capacity that you are able to, that you've been able to get into this new year, kicking, screaming, crawling, but we crossed over the line, and we're going to get to the point where we're standing, walking, and thriving. Sindo, yes, kabisa. Hope you're doing well, and as we do it, Dennis Aseto not here with us this morning, but one Joe Kamanya is going to join us in a bit to then be able to push these conversations. There is a lot to go through, and you thought that the year was going to start slowly. It hasn't, because before you know it, things are being thrown all over the place, isn't it? Whether the U.S. administration is going to go in and take over operations in Venezuela, whether they're going to make statements about what could or couldn't happen in Colombia. And the question then becomes who or what is next. Whether people are going to be thrown out of political parties or they're going to chart their own political course in Kenya. And we're getting into a year of elections in certain parts of the continent, and we're looking into a year of elections next year in other parts of the continent as well. There are many things happening, and this is Kenya's biggest conversation. We'll look at all of those things in one way or another. And we already see you getting into the room this morning. Good morning, and thank you for doing that already. Our live streams are up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X, and we'll get into things this morning. Even as we do, a very, very big thank you for joining us. And we'll say hello to you in just a minute. You're going to bed, you're waking up this morning, wherever it is you are around the world. Thank you for tuning in this morning. And we'll get to say hello to you in just a little bit, once I tell you some of the things that we'll be talking about today. And also then be able to share a proverb with you. So, guys, for now, it's you and I. Keep me company and tag in. Let me know where it is you're tuned in from, even as we talk this morning. And a very good morning to our audience on KTN. As you tuned in around the country, around the region, and indeed around the world. This is where we comfort the afflicted and we afflict the comfortable. To have that conversation, or those conversations that many people may not want to have, or are comfortable in their own space to not have them, but we're going to talk about them either way. So karibuni sana, and thank you for joining us today. I want to let you in onto conversations that we'll have this morning. We're going to start off at 7 o'clock with a conversation around something that is celebratory in one way, but then is a bit confusing when it comes to the injury and the loss that we saw going into the new year. And that's with fireworks and a lot of the, I don't even know what they're called, a lot of the... Are they knockouts? Are they blowouts? What are they? Firecrackers? Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. That people use in celebration. We saw that this ended in some injury and quite a lot of loss this year. We hear them all the time. The balutis that people throw up and down. Is it time for a crackdown? Is it time for a ban on this? We're going to have a conversation this morning with Sheila Kwamboka. Sheila Kwamboka, otherwise known as Kwambooks, is going to join us in the Situation Room this morning. And she made a statement just after New Year. And she said, you know what? We need to call for the banning of these things. So we're going to have a conversation. What spurs that? And is it about time that we looked at other ways to celebrate? She joins us at 7. Fireworks or public nuisance, rethinking celebrations in Kenya, maybe around the world. Are there other ways in which these can be done? She'll join us at 7 o'clock for that conversation. Professor Nguriwa Machofi is a governance expert. We're going to look at the state of the nation getting into 2026. State of the nation, reset, reform, or just rhetoric. What exactly is going on here? political parties doing all sorts of things, everybody slinging mud in one direction or another. And so we'll talk about that with Professor Machofi at 8 o'clock. All right, we're getting into a new year, aren't we? New Year resolutions. People still do that? Is that a thing? People are still saying, okay, this year I will. Last year I didn't, but I'm having another opportunity to get into it. Well, we're going to look at that today. Designing your 2026 personal branding strategy. What it is that you're going to do. I've heard people are putting together vision boards. People are doing all kinds of things, planning the year, saying this year I will not, I will. We're going to look at all of this with Anne Wagaki, who is an author of a book called Purpose for Impact. We'll talk with her at 9 o'clock. As we get into the year properly, she'll be with us to then be able to do that. Those are the conversations we'll have this morning. Lovely already to have you in the room, even as we get into it today. So like I said, join me because for now it looks like I'm flying solo, but with you we'll have the conversations and necessary for us to be able to push a lot of these things. All right. This week our proverbs are going to, as we get into the year, proverbs are going to come from Burkina Faso. The Burkinabe are the ones who make up Burkina Faso. It's rich in diverse groups like the Mossi and the Tuareg, and they offer wisdom through proverbs, emphasizing hard work, community, honesty, and valuing life. And we are going to go through some of those which they say, and I'm sure you can probably link them to some of the things that we are seeing today. The first proverb that we share from Burkina Faso today: when the ants unite their mouths, they can carry an elephant. When the ants unite their mouths, you can carry an elephant. This is interesting because I had an opportunity to see some interesting things over the last couple of weeks. And I remember then being out and I saw something moving across the ground, actually. And I was like, okay, how's this thing moving? And I studied it for a minute and I looked at it, a little closer. And truthfully, there were hundreds, possibly hundreds of ants carrying this. Was a beetle or something, or something that was significantly bigger than them. And I thought to myself, okay, they've all come together, they're carrying this thing and they're moving it across, probably going to become food or fodder at some point, right? And they were able to move it and they just kept going, even beyond where I was seated at that point. But I thought about the tiny, tiny, tiny ant on its own. It would have never been able to move this almost cockroach size thing. But them coming together, they made it look effortless. And it's interesting because the Burkinabe say, you know what? If they come together, they could even move an elephant. So as you're getting into this year, what's that thing that you're looking at and you're saying, this thing is huge, I'm not going to be able to do it. It's gargantuan. Well, you know what? If we're all going together, we can actually do it. So what is it? Is it a vote? Is it an election? Is it the choosing of a leader? Is it an insurmountable problem? What is it? Perhaps you need to think about not going it alone. They're onto something there, and we'll look into some of the things that they tell us as we're getting into this week. Let us know what you think about that proverb, even as we get into things this morning. And so thank you so much for doing that with us today. Sawa sawa. All right. As we're getting into it, I want to say a very good morning to you as you tune into different parts, as you tune in to this from different parts of the country. Happy New Year to everybody. And this is Desmond Ortiz. Ndu, are you fine? I am fine. Etc. Is that you? Maybe we see him from far, but he's not here this morning. Awuor is here. Awuor, good morning. Good morning to you, Karibu Sana, as we get into things today. Joyline is also here. And Christine, I saw her flash in, flash out. It's a new year. Same people being able to do great things. So Karibuni Kilamtu, and for putting us through today. Kiarie, good morning to you from Mombasa. And you say, if all seeds that fell to grow, if all seeds that fall were to grow, then no one would follow the path under the trees. There's a purpose for everything, for sure. Yes, Musanga is tuning in this morning from Lusaka, rather from Lilongwe. I'm in Malawi. Good morning to you. Tuning from Mombasa. New Year, says Robert Mbogo. Happy New Year to you. Nyakundi Emmanuel says, Happy New Year, team. We thank God for a new year Indeed, we do. Thank God for a new year. Carolyn Nyambura says, good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. Spice FM will pender you the more even this year. Asante Sana. Caroline, good morning to you. Eliana Yabesh says, peeps are back, kabisa. Welcome and let the year begin. Indeed. Let's get into it proper. Mashari Anjero says, Happy New Year from Team Spice. I missed you. Well, we missed you too. Definitely a part of the morning which you can never replace. Thank you so much. Tuning from Kitale is Boaz Naliana says, good morning to the Situation Room. Listening in from Kitale. Sabalheri na mwaka mjema 2026 yenye mafaniko. Mema, inshallah. Good morning to you, Rogers Line. Good morning, Karibu Sana. And tuning from Preston, UK is Rahim Tula Omar. Good morning to you. Bernard Yaberi says, Happy New Year. Welcome back. Some of us need essential workers. We never went for Xmas and New Year. Tumekuwa tukichunga studio. Kavisa. You left us like orphans without even notice for almost 2 weeks. We're very, very sorry. You had to go to the tank and put some fuel into it. But here we are, back. And so thank you for being here. We see you, and thank you for doing that. Dear Combo says, good morning, Wahenga. Good morning and Happy New Year to you. Is it a new series and a new season for January? Let the fresh anointed flow over us all. Amen. Don Sabo says, welcome and Happy New Year 2026. Let us not forget that Maduro is behind bars in the U.S. In New York, actually. Sifuna is firing on from all cylinders, and the Mulembe Nation is buzzing with energy. I know. It is actually looking like people said, okay, 2026, before we even said 2026. And all the guns are out of the holsters and everybody's going for it. Christina A says, Happy New Year, Ndu. Just Ndu this morning. And Christine, EVE, the entire crew, Awuor is here. Nice to see you this year again. Christina, thank you for tuning in and Happy New Year to you. Glad to see you on this other side. From Kangunda Road, Happy New Year 2026 to Spice FM team and to all looking forward to the greatest conversation ever. And this is Peter Gitao. Good morning to you. Happy New Year, says Joyce. Good morning to you, Fiery Red. It's open day. Imagine, first day of school and everybody got on the bus. Happy New Year, everybody. Good morning, Team Spice. Good morning to you, Fiery Red. Erica Awuor says, good morning to you. James from South Sea. Yes, we see you. Yani, 2026 will begin properly when you hear your opinion about all the issues on whether we're going to Singapore or Singapore. We have indeed missed you. I've missed you too. Whether we're going to Singapore, perhaps somebody's going to buy a ticket and actually go to the country. But in terms of getting to its status, a lot needs to be done. And I have many opinions about that. Zora Takev says, good morning, we're back. Indeed, we're back. Aswanab says, good morning, Team Spice. Happy New Year and blessed 2026. Rahim Tula says, who will be next after Maduro? Maybe Khamenei? Well, we'll see. Evans Dande says, good morning, watching from Sony Sugar Company. Good morning to you. Karibu Sana. Okello Sam says, good morning, Team Spice family. It's opening day. It's the first day of school and everybody is on the bus. Karibu Sana. Happy New Year, everyone. Says Liziko, as we ponder what's going on in politics, let's also remember we'll be living in buildings that are death traps. It's a national emergency. Absolutely. It was a national emergency when one building collapsed. But truth be told, the number of buildings that we're seeing coming up without the prerequisite approval and without the proper pre-work is astounding. That the tragedy that we saw a couple of days ago in this South Sea building collapse is crazy. It really is. And we have to keep talking about this. It's crazy. Edwin Gary says, good morning, Happy New Year and blessings. Happy New Year, Spice family, says JKI 6688. Good morning to you. Kennedy Moirori is tuned in this morning, says Happy New Year, folks. And Wakele Tuhimbo says, Happy New Year, and we missed you guys. We missed you too, Kabisa. Good morning, Team Spice. How are you all this blessed Monday? We're here and we're kicking it. We thank the Almighty God, says Ras. Good morning to you. Good morning, Team Spice from Dallas in Texas. And good morning, crew. Nick, this is Eliza Fan Jerry. Good morning to you. Noriega Emmanuel could be the next. What a year. Angalia standard headline. We'll look into it in just a minute. Dennis from Mombasa, good morning and Happy New Year 2026 to you. Goz Berena Meroka says Happy New Year indeed to you as well. Emily Osena says Happy New Year, wishing you all the very best. And Kimia says finally, yes, Happy New Year. And Karibu Sana, Happy New Year, Chababe, missed you, Karibu Sana. Dan Stillagat, good morning to you, Asante Sana. And good morning, Ndu. People in Northeastern are suffering due to drought. Where are their leaders? Nationally, we've been neglected so much. Yeah. This is the truth, and we often ask questions. We went into the end of the year asking the question, even if we have to start off this year asking it again. If we have to deal with a situation where people are drinking water that is emanating from the ground and it is the color of your skin, then you want to ask the question, which world are you actually going towards? Also, that we know that people are making selections about where their children will go to school. We know that the Ministry of Education has said that in a couple of weeks, you then be able to make a choice for the school that you selected. So then begs the question, are we going to have maximum capacity in those other schools that nobody selects? This thing about decategorization of schools, leveling the playing field for everybody, is going to take some time for us to actually get into it. All right, so those are some of the conversations. These are, it's always good to have you guys in the room as we get into it. The year is going to be a buzzing one, and even as we do, good to see that you guys are here with us as we get into it. So let's look into the headlines. We'll do that in just a bit. And on the front page of the Standard newspaper, Kenya's bold newspaper, who is next? That's the question on the Standard today. Government ignored the arrest of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, now facing criminal charges in a New York court, has come a few days before the U.S. again on President Donald Trump's orders launched strikes in northern Nigeria following his claim that ISIS was killing Christians there and had to be stopped. The two unrelated events happening miles and days apart carry a chilling message to the African continent that the U.S. under Trump is not short of extreme measures. On several occasions, Trump has alluded to this through his snide remarks on some African states. Well, let's look at what some world leaders had to say about this recent incident in Venezuela. According to the UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, we shed no tears for the end of the Maduro regime. And according to the Chinese government, we are deeply shocked and strongly condemn the use of force against the sovereign country and its president. The Russian government, of course, represented by Vladimir Putin, U.S. that has committed an act of armed aggression. The Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, the action has crossed an unacceptable line. Attacking countries in flagrant violation of international law is the first step toward a world of violence, chaos, and instability. So, of course, these are many reactions from the U.S. action in Venezuela. And of course, we saw some of those placards in the streets. Fascist regime must go. Trump must go now. And we'll look into the details of that. Let me look into some of the other stories making headlines. Parents stretched thin as schools reopen. Folks are doing the travel today. Schools officially open tomorrow morning. Some are traveling back to different parts of the country through this morning. And so we're going to look into some of the details of that. The Law Society of Kenya is looking for a new president. Kabata, Kanjama or Wanyama. The race for LSK top seats takes shape, and it looks like these three gentlemen are in for the running. We'll look into that as well. And looking into some of these other stories. Here we go. Pollution Highway, how Athi River transports millions of plastics into the Indian Ocean. Yikes. 58.8% is a big number, is the percentage of plastics in collected litter. So like when you collect a litter from water body, 58.8% of that is plastic. 78.4% is of branded food product packaging. So people are taking their waste and they are not putting it in the rubbish bin, putting it somewhere else. And this is ending up in our rivers. And of course, there's no telling the destruction that happens as a result of that. If it's making its way to the ocean, then yeah, what happens to marine life? All right, more of that. Of course, the story carried on page 6 is why Trump's moves are giving African leaders sleepless nights. And who's ruling the global roost right now? Captured President Maduro, first casualty in U.S. push to stamp its supremacy in the Western Hemisphere. Let me tell you something. If you cannot see the geopolitics that's playing out here, then perhaps we need to open your eyes, or we need to open our eyes a little bit and maybe get a monocle on one eye to really have a look into what's happening here. Because if anybody thought that this had nothing to do with nationalism and a look out towards stamping authority in the geopolitical space, then we may be a little bit wrong here. And I don't think it's just about keeping the peace. From Noriega to Maduro, how the U.S. punishes states defying its power. You want to do something that's going to be a slap in the face to us? We're going to show you a lesson or two. That's exactly what the U.S. is saying here. They can use ways and means to say it, but this is what is being said. All right. Bodies of 4 youth recovered in lake, sadly. Rigathi Slam's Ruto, he is coming out. Folks polished their guns over the last 10 days and said, new year, new who? Nana, bringing out the guns and going for it. Rigathi now says, you know what? You need to tell us where this money is going. This money that America is saying is being stolen in Minnesota has a link to Kenya, and you know who it is. Okech Kendo is in the opinion pages today, and his op-ed today is Kenya Moja MPs are inspired by selflessness or selfishness. Kenya Moja, do you remember that there's Kenya Moja? Just to say. All right. And Ruto won't take us to Singapore, still in the opinion pages, but he can alter Kenya's course. Ahmed Said Mohammed is a strategist, and he's given that op-ed today. All right. A number was rattling through the airwaves over the weekend. 500 million shillings. Or not. Junet Sifuna clash over 2022 ODM campaign money. Sifuna says, wait, tell us where that money went. We don't understand. It was supposed to be for paying agents, paying communications people, making sure that there were agents at all polling stations. Where did that money go? Because we didn't see it. Junet comes back and says, no, actually, former President Uhuru Kenyatta gave the money to I don't know who, and it never showed up. So it's back and forth, and it looks like it's going to get uglier by the day. While that is all happening, one father is leading Kenya's malaria fight. And you want to know how? Well, we'll look into that. Health and Science is a pullout today in the Standard. Vihiga's mothers turn to community therapy to ease postpartum stress. And we're looking at some of these stories. We're living with sickle cell. Families' pain as awareness and treatment lag. Sickle cell is still a big deal for a lot of people in the coast and western parts of the country. So that's some of the stories making their way into Health and Science. Art lovers protest as curtains risk falling on Mombasa's oldest theatre, the Little Theatre Club. And it looks like that might close, but I'll share that story with you. School loses appeal in minor's death, ordered to pay 2.1 million shillings. That you want to know about as well. All right, let's look into some of the business stories. Kenya exits COMESA safeguard rule as sugar reforms take shape. And the Treasury is doing something. And they're facing IMF test as loan talks resume. Loan talks as in where nyaje, pesa yetu, unalipa lini kind of thing. All right. And we're going to do all of this and look through into some of the sports pages. And we saw that Kenya's tennis champion did the thing again. And she is, raking on some serious glory. Athletes to watch and look out for in 2026. Of course, Faith Kipyegon is there. One to look into. And in the 1500, Faith Cherotich to the 3,000 meter steeplechase, Lillian O'Dear in the 800 meters, Agnes Ngetich track and race, Helen Obiri in the marathon, and Paris Chepchirchir in the marathon as well. Jocelyn Chepkoskei in the marathon, and Emmanuel Wanyonyi in the 800 meters, Edmund Serem in the 3,000 meter steeplechase, and Faniel Koech in the 1,500 meters, Ronald Cheriot in the 1,500 and 5,000. And that's what it looks like in the athletes to watch this year. And on the back page of the Standard today, Nigeria have eyes on the prize. There's a picture of Nigerian captain Victor Osimhen, and it looks like they have a good match tonight against Mozambique, looking for 5-0 against Mozambique today into the round of 16, while Egypt, they're tipped as the favourites for this tournament, play Benin at 7. And so the AFCON, Africa Cup of Nations, national level, is taking place in Egypt, and let's see what happens tonight. All right, for us to look into some of these stories in detail, and let's look at what's happening with the United States. This story is carried, and why then it carries jitters for African nations? Because the question then that is asked in this front story is, who is next? So looking into page 6, get yourself a copy of the Standard this morning to be able to look into these stories in detail. Page 6, why Trump's moves are giving African leaders sleepless nights. That US President Donald Trump means these words, no matter how outlandish they may sound, is not in doubt. And now, African countries, he has previously mentioned, have a reason to worry. We know that in northwest Nigeria, on Christmas Day, many said the American administration delivered a Christmas gift to Nigeria by this airstrike that took place, which is said to be ISIS-backed terrorist groups that were targeting Christians in many parts of the middle towards northern Nigeria. And so that strike seemed to have silenced folks on Christmas Day. We don't know, but that is why people might have jitters. They launched strikes in northern state of Sokoto less than 2 months after his usual remarks that could have easily passed for informal social media rants about Nigeria being a country of particular concern, as he threatened a guns-a-blazing intervention, claiming the killing and persecution of Christians by Islamic groups in the country. Trump's move in Venezuela that caught the world by surprise, as he announced over the weekend that American troops had captured President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, reveals the extent to which the U.S. under Trump is willing to grow to flex its muscle in a fast-changing world. Yesterday, BBC reported that the U.S. had indicated it would run Venezuela until a safe, proper and judicious transition can be ensured following U.S. strikes that led to the capture of Maduro. I need you to look at something for me. Wherever we have seen the U.S. act in this manner, that there is a direct link to natural resources. Call me out on it. Tell me one country where there has been U.S. action for whatever the top layer reason may be, but look at the country and see what is there that you might possibly want to control. There's no doubt that the petrodollar still continues to reign in Venezuela. And so am I being crazy on this 5th of January to say that a country with unimaginable, untapped resource of oil like Venezuela, who now have decided, where conversations have been before, that they were going to de-dollarize their transactions over the last many months, is now being attacked by the US? Does it come as a surprise? Does it? Let's look in years past, where we were told that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, and Saddam Hussein was captured and killed. Were there weapons of mass destruction? Let's look at Libya, where it was said that Gaddafi needed to be controlled because he was a strong man. But Libya has some of the lightest crude in the world, which is what everybody wants to use. Libya has it, Nigeria has it. And when we talk about light crude, it means that you don't have to go through the refinery process to the level of other crude that you must. So everybody wants it because it's less expensive. Have you seen a country that has that does not have natural resources that the US wants, that there has been US intervention of a military nature? Show me one. I stand to be corrected. Tell me one. Please, tell me one. I am ready to be proved. I need to. Maybe I don't know, but tell me one. Where there has not, or where there has been, if there isn't something to achieve from it. Tell me one. I'll now wait. As I continue with this story, tell me one. So here we see on the 25th of December, there was the airstrike in northern Nigeria. There's the capture of Maduro and his wife Flores. And now we see that they're being held in a criminal court. Rather, they're held in prison in New York. The U.S. launched strikes in Venezuela on Saturday morning, in which Maduro and his wife, First Lady Celia Flores, were captured by U.S. forces and removed from the country. Venezuela announced a state of national emergency and denounced the military aggression, with the country's vice president saying Maduro is its only leader. International agencies have also reported that Trump warned Mexico, Cuba, and Colombia of facing similar action as Venezuela amid reports of narco-terrorism and drug influence. I hazard a guess that it has nothing to do with the drugs. The agencies also reported that Maduro and Flores were flown out of the capital, Caracas, on a U.S. helicopter in the early hours of Saturday morning and taken aboard the USS Iwo Jima at an unknown location in the Caribbean Sea. Does it undermine state sovereignty when you're looking at something like this? What drugs? Because the drugs are coming into the U.S., so you capture a president? Okay. Is it the first time this has happened? You know, it's nice that people want to flex their muscle in this way, but what happened to international law and state sovereignty? I'm just asking a question. This looks like it could get interesting. It almost feels as though the US president is playing a game here of monopoly and saying, okay, who can we get next because of what they're doing and because we don't like it? Maybe we can go as far as saying that the second Cold War is actually taking place, but in this case, it is not. Again, in this case, it is East versus West, but in this case, not Russia, but China. The de-dollarization of different transactions around the world, and we're looking at Venezuela with deep pockets in terms of oil resources, for whom there wants to be control in the future, have been captured. And we're being told because it's their drugs that are coming into America. Colombia is next. You ask yourself what Colombia has. Cuba has also been warned. Ask yourself, what does Cuba have? Mexico has also been warned. Ask yourself, what does Mexico have? Sudan here is rotting. Right? Right? Ask yourself the question. When Rwanda went and 1 million people were killed in a very short period of time, who was involved? You have to ask yourselves these questions. And I think it's about time that state sovereignty took a front seat at some of these conversations. That's what's happening in the Western world. It'll be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of days. But beneath the drugs, beneath the white powder, you've got to ask yourself, what is actually going on? From Noriega to Maduro, how U.S. punishes state defying its power, and that's the story right there. This story is actually done by Fwamba NC Fwamba in Nairobi. That anybody who wants to defy U.S. power is likely to get a lashing, and in this case, a criminal lashing. And so we must look at that. Those are the realities of our times, and this is where we are today. The world is becoming interesting. And this is what we see happening, at least in the West, at this point. All right. So that's what it looks like is happening right now. On that side, we keep an eye on all of this and see as it develops, because it's likely to be an interesting couple of days as we go into it. Bodies of 4 youth recovered in lake. Bodies of 4 fishermen who drowned while illegally fishing in Lake Naivasha have been recovered following a 2-day search around the scene of the incident. Unfortunately, this happens too often. It is illegal to fish in this lake. There are ways, but 2 of the bodies were recovered on Saturday evening, with the remaining 2 found on Sunday morning after a joint operation involving the Kenya Coast Guard Service and a local fisherman. 2 of the victims were brothers from Kihoto Estate who had joined their colleagues for fishing near Calro farm when a group of hippos attacked. While fleeing, 4 of the 14 youth drowned while the rest swam to safety, highlighting growing concern over rising drowning and hippo attack cases in the lake. Naivasha DCIO Isaac Kiama confirmed all youth in the lake during the attack have now been accounted for. All 4 missing bodies have now recovered and been taken to the Naivasha Sub-County Hospital mortuary, and inquest files have been opened. Still continues to be an unfortunate situation where we see things like this. It was obvious in this case that they were not able to swim in that case. All right. So let's look at some other stories making headlines today. Also, so we know what has been happening with the whole Somali-Minnesota connection and what has been happening there. And we see that Rigathi now slams Ruto and says that the U.S. government should speed up investigations, perhaps Kenya to be put on that list in terms of what's happening there. And he says that investigations into individuals involved in money laundering, particularly those alleged to have stolen funds from Minnesota, should be looked into. He claims that top government officials have benefited from the stolen money, which he says financed the 2022 elections. Speaking at a church service in AIPCA Kiratina Githonguri constituency, Kiambu County, the former deputy president criticized President William Ruto for pledging to fight trafficking despite allegedly appointing 2 known drug barons to his cabinet. Now, this is interesting, or is it serendipity that this has just been put in his place and he has said, you know what, we can actually do something with this. He says, look, it's not just people in America, it's also people here in Kenya, and you should actually deal with them. So is it something that he can take advantage of, or is it something that can actually be done? It'll be interesting if the arrows are then pointed in this direction. All right, let's look at a couple more stories. And I wanted to look at one of these in detail. All right. 500 million shillings, whether it was given, whether it was not given. And this is something that is actually starting to turn interesting. That leaders are already starting to fight amongst themselves. We'll look at the whole Kileleshwa Ward MCA and Embakasi East Member of Parliament row. But before that, Junet Sifuna now clash over 2022 ODM campaign money. The debate over the payment of ODM agents during the 2022 general election has resurfaced, with top officials trading barbs over the funds. The controversy has escalated as questions arise over the handling of campaign money during the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga's 2022 presidential bid. At the center of the storm are National Assembly Minority Leader Junet Mohammed and ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna, who have sensationally accused each other of mishandling the funds, dragging former President Uhuru Kenyatta into the controversy. The row erupted on Saturday when Sifuna launched a scathing attack on Junet, claiming that he was among those who misused Uhuru's money meant to fund campaign activities. He revealed that as ODM Secretary General, he was aware that most of the campaign money came from Uhuru, which he acknowledged for supporting Raila's campaign both in cash and kind, and that is the truth. But now, someone has suddenly discovered that Uhuru's money is not good. I want to ask Junet, pesa ya Uhuru ilianza kuwa mbaya siku gani? When did Uhuru's money suddenly become bad? There were days you were taking that money and you did not bring all of it to the party. You ate some of it alone. One day we will begin an audit of the 2022 election, and it is good you have started this debate so that everyone can account for the role they played in 2022. Ooh-wee. Is what we're looking at, and it gets uglier and uglier by the day in terms of who's going to do what. And many have said split is imminent. But everybody has said we're not leaving the party. We're going to continue doing what we're supposed to do and what Baba wanted us to do. Wow. So it's interesting. On the sidelines of that conversation is that the president is calling for peace, unity and growth to drive the nation forward. He has urged Kenyans to embrace peace, reject politics of revenge and focus on national development. He said stability, accountability and progressive leadership are key to transforming the country. He was speaking in Chepsambur in West Pokot County during an interdenominational prayer service, and he highlighted ongoing security and development challenges in parts of the country, including Barakoi, Turkana border areas, and some North Rift regions. But the overarching message here from the president is that everybody should live in peace and harmony. Donge. Yeah, it's necessary for you to be able to do that. Grab a copy of the Standard so you have a look at the health and science pages. I want to look at this gentleman who is leading Kenya's malaria fight on his own. The death of 7 children to malaria was a tragedy that shook Samson Okoth's world. The children aged between 1 and 5 years died from the mosquito-borne disease between 2018 and 2022. Okoth was left in despair. The resident of Ripe village in Homa Bay says the children first fell ill. He thought it was just a normal fever. But the condition worsened, and despite hospital care, they all succumbed to the disease. He regrets delaying taking the children to hospital. Malaria is a monster. I never realized how serious it could be until it swept through my children. Their deaths have left a permanent scar. I sit at their graves and imagine what they would have become, only for their light to be cut short by death. He's a father of 15 with 2 wives. The first wife lost 3 of her 11 children, while the second wife lost 4 of her 10 children. Had it not been for malaria, Okoth would now be a father of 21. Okay, there are many sub-stories here, but of this one, where he says, you know what, I could have actually made it work. So it's a tough one, that disease. And so these are the things, unfortunately for me, that I look at. And I'm just going to have a little bit of a moment here, because when we talk about this, that disease is still ravaging families in this manner. Because we're looking at 2022, that is 3 years ago, 4 years ago. When we are looking at the things that we are seeing that are making headlines today, and we're talking about making it to the first world, I don't have a problem with aspiring towards greatness. In fact, I think it is a demand that should be made of everyone in every country. But when you want to build a house, where do you start? Unless I'm wrong, when you want to build a house, where do you begin? Your foundation has to be solid. This holiday period, I saw a house that is cracked from the ground to the top, and it was very clear that the guy said, we need to take this thing down. Otherwise, somebody inside, it was clear that there would be tragedy in that house. It's cracked. What did that mean? That the foundation was not solid. And there's this Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? What's at the bottom of the pyramid? Is it not food, shelter, and those things? That you need to eat, that you need to have a roof over your head, and that you need to be clothed? Those are the basic needs that you have first. Can we extrapolate that to country and say that the very basic things that you need to then be able to do are to feed your hungry, to heal your sick, to educate your children? Can we aspire for greatness if we have not started with good? It is not an indictment on anybody who dares to dream. It is a plea for everybody who should dream that you need to have your basics right first. That if you have people who cannot afford medical care, what on earth are you doing with mega infrastructure? That if your children cannot be educated, everybody across the board, what are you really doing when we are talking about superhighways that will take nobody anywhere? Can we really operate in a world whereby we're not even sure what the education system is going to look like in the next 3 months? Not 3 years, 3 months. 3 months. There are people who are running helter-skelter today to go and try and get placement for their children in schools along the pathways. There are people whose children have been taken halfway across the country in terms of placement. What are they going to do? And I will not forget the picture in my mind of a woman who is holding a bowl to the ground to collect water that is seeping from the ground to then be able to go and cook and drink. So, where the dream for Singapore, or the dream for the first world, or the dream for the developing world or the developed world is valid, I would support it if we saw some of these very, very basics being taken care of. We cannot have wanton corruption and then we talk about the fact that we want to go somewhere tomorrow. These are some of the things that I'm talking about. We're still dealing with disease. How old is malaria in Kenya, in Africa? How old is sickle cell in parts of West Africa? How old is some of these? We still have how many percentage of women who are dying from preventable deaths during childbirth? Are you catching my drift? You want to go somewhere, you got to have the shoes, man. Because if you're going to walk barefoot on this highway, you're going to get blisters, and at some point you're not going to be able to move. So people have said I've been critical of the race towards development. No, I'm not critical about it at all. In fact, I urge it, and I say that it is a good thing. But if you don't have your ducks in a row, if you don't have your I's dotted and your T's crossed, ain't nowhere you're going. That's just the truth. That there are certain things, they're very basic fundamentals that were done in order to achieve development. And until and unless you're ready to get there, to do those things, the dream may be valid, but it remains just a dream. Hear me on this. Hear me. There's nobody who developed who didn't take care of the basics. That you have welfare states whereby somebody can grab a meal supported by government and take a hot shower and have a place to sleep. That's what we're talking about. But if we still have children today who are at home at the age of 6 taking care of other siblings because their parents have to go out and work or because their parents are no more, we have a problem. I don't know if I'm speaking. And I think that's what we need to be thinking about. As we're getting into the new year and we're doing new things, perhaps we need to have a new train of thought. That there are many things that are happening in this country which are good. There are many things that are happening around the continent which are good. They are developing. But if we want a wholesome approach towards development and moving in a particular direction, there are some things you can't ignore them. You can't ignore the corruption. You can't ignore the stealing. You can't ignore you're sick. You can't ignore you're uneducated. You can't ignore you're hungry. There's a drought in parts of the country today. Today, guys. Today, there's drought. There's drought. And guess what? The weatherman told us that following extreme weather conditions, you will find yet another extreme weather pattern. There were floods just 12 months ago. Now, 23 counties might face drought going into the next couple of months. There are people today where there's no water. Today, there's no water. Those are the things that we're saying need to be handled. Till today, do you know that the Disaster Management Authority does not have a mandate to then create an office? Because what are we saying? Because then you will not have the executive power to then move money to get certain things done. Disaster Management Authority, still today, has no wings to fly. That's what we're talking about. We'll talk about drought. There will be relief food. People are happy because they have rations. Now tell me, hold up where people are getting rations and looking for water against the picture, right, of the first world of development. Is this dream towards Singapore or wherever it is that people want to go just about highways? Or is it about paths to making sure that your people are taken care of? Well, that was my rant for this morning. And I need to know where your thoughts are around that. We'll have part of that conversation later. But this is the truth. What's the state? And these are the things that we ought to be looking at. It's very, very important for us to. So let's not just be part of the political, noise that's made over time. Ask ourselves, interrogate these things. When somebody says we want to take you somewhere, ask yourselves, is there fuel in the tank? Is there an engine? Is the radiator working? Then by all means, let's go. Or are we going to go half-legged, crawling, kicking, screaming, trying to make it across the line? We have to ask. Those are questions we have to ask, guys. So if you're going in one direction, you want to ask yourself if you have all the equipment to take you there. That's how we're going to start off the year, guys. We're going to come out guns blazing, and these are some of the questions that we're going to ask. And we have to ask them in order to get the answers that we need. We have to be part of these conversations. We have to be part of the discourse. We begged and said, let's get into it. Let's get into it proper this year. And let's ask the questions that need to be asked. Interrogate it. Don't let somebody just come and tell you something and you take it hook, line, and sinker. Interrogate. Sieve it through with common sense. And let's see where the answers take us. Good morning, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. We are getting reports that 9 people, including 2 minors, have died following a head-on collision between a bus and a matatu near Kayole, Naivasha, along the Nairobi-Nakuru highway. Scores of others have been injured and rushed to Naivasha Sub-County Hospital in serious condition. Confirming the incident, Naivasha DCIO Isaac Kiama said the accident occurred at 1 a.m. In other news, Health CS Ndu Okoh has cautioned against unverified claims of miraculous healing, saying matters of health and life must remain grounded in science, ethics and evidence-based medicine. His remarks follow a warning by the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council that misleading narratives about healing could endanger public health. The controversial claims surfaced during a 3-day religious crusade in Nakuru led by a well-known preacher and drew widespread attention on both mainstream and social media. The unverified claims emerged that serious illnesses were miraculously healed through faith during the crusade. Ndu Okoh has since directed KMPDC to immediately investigate medical professionals who publicly testified to such claims.
Na huyo mtu alifanya hiyo crusade anisikize. Na wale madaktari waliongea wanisikize. If they cannot verify scientifically, we will be forced to cancel their license. And I am told 2 of them are from MTRH. We have directed the regulator, Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council, to do a thorough investigation on those medical practitioners.
DCP leader Rigathi Gachagua has urged the US to carry out a military operation in Kenya similar to the one it carried out in Venezuela on Saturday to arrest individuals alleged to have stolen funds from Minnesota. He was speaking during a Sunday church service at AIPCA, Githunguri, Kiambu County. The former deputy president alleged that President Ruto benefited from the alleged looting, claiming the funds were used to bankroll his 2022 presidential bid. He accused the head of state of shielding those involved, alleging that he plans to frustrate extradition efforts through court orders.
We are asking Donald Trump, please don't bother with the extradition process in Kenya. Just do what you did in Venezuela. Yeah? Just send your people with a plane, come and pick that fellow from here, uende umshtaki. Kulikuwa na pesa ya kusaidia people with disability, kusaidia watu wako na challenges. Hiyo pesa yote ikaibiwa ikaletwa hapa Kenya. Wakanunua mashamba, wakanunua manyumba, wakajenga mamall. So rais anapanga wapewe court order, wasiende. Na mtaona watapewa court order.
Gachagua and his allies, including Senator Karungo Wathangwa, dismissed as empty political rhetoric President Ruto's 5 trillion shillings plan to transition Kenya into a first world country.
Mimi niko na plan, na ile plan niko nayo ni ya kutoa Kenya third world nipeleke first world ikuwe kama Singapore. Don't tell us that Singapore nonsense. First deal with the bottom up.
Kenya ni kubwa mara 800 ukilinganisha na Singapore. Na ukisikia huyo kiongozi akisema anatupeleka Singapore, hiyo ni kumaanisha hawezi ongoza nchi kubwa, anataka kuongoza nchi kidogo. Kwa hivyo yeye ashuke hapo aende asimame kiti ya mbunge.
The US is not at war with Venezuela, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said, after American forces captured the Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro on Saturday. It comes as Maduro, who was detained alongside his wife Celia Flores following a large-scale US military operation in Caracas, is due to appear in court in New York later today. In an interview with NBC, Rubio said congressional approval was not needed for the attack, which Venezuela has denounced, saying innocent civilians were killed.
There's not a war. I mean, we are a war against drug trafficking organizations. It's not a war against Venezuela. We are enforcing American laws with regards to oil sanctions. We have sanctioned entities. We go to court. We get a warrant. We seize those boats with oil. And we will continue to reserve the right to take strikes against drug boats that are bringing drugs towards the United States that are being operated by transnational criminal organizations, including the Cartel de los Sols. Of course, the leader of that cartel is now in U.S. custody and facing U.S. justice in the Southern District of New York, and that's Nicolas Maduro.
That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who were initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't, let me tell you, you saw the other parliamentary group meeting. People went there, sat, listened, looked at him. There was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Presidency is fairly interesting in the sense that it will actually take us to a new consciousness.
Swali zile watu hawaulizi na swali muuliza na shangala ni aje kwani huku kunaendaje?
30 billion shillings annually on travel alone in public service.
A Kenyan can even demonstrate every single day of his life that Ruto must go. That is the only message of his demonstration. That is his right.
That bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and subverts the cause of those who are in the right.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It is 8 minutes after 7 o'clock and getting into the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation on this Monday, the 5th of January. Are you winning? Let's talk about a once-in-a-lifetime chance to win a dream getaway, all thanks to the KCB Bank winning card. So here's how it works. If you bank with KCB and you pay using your KCB debit, credit, or your prepaid card, you get a chance to win every single time you pay. So whether you're buying groceries, whether you're fueling your car, whether you're grabbing lunch, paying or shopping online, just pay with your KCB card and you get a chance to enter weekly, monthly, and a grand prize draw. So weekly winners will walk away with 10,000 shillings. Sounds really good right about now. Monthly winners walk away with 100,000 shillings. And the grand prize is a holiday getaway to Zanzibar for two. Who says you can't go on holiday in February, including flights, accommodation, and exciting excursions? So remember, paying with your KCB card isn't just safe and convenient, it could make you a winner. So the more you pay using your KCB card, the higher, the better your chance of winning. Use your KCB card today. The winning card. Remember, terms and conditions apply. KCB Bank, for people, for better. And so that's what I want you to do today. So you get a hold of that and let's see how we move. Sawa. It is now 10 minutes after 7 o'clock, and we're going to have a conversation about celebrations today. Joining us in the studio Media personality and culture commentator Sheila Kwamboka is here with us this morning. Sheila, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm great, Ndu. How are you doing?
I'm very well.
I mean, before we get into the serious conversation, do I stand a chance for the trip?
The trip?
The
Yep.
one you just announced.
You have to use your KCB card.
But I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just give me a trip?
No.
Okay.
So you have to be above board.
Just checking. Just checking.
You're well, though?
I'm good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I mean, it's been a while.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
We're all operating within the same space, so it's great to then be able to see. And oftentimes I say, we must have all of us being involved in these things.
Mm-hmm.
We can sit here behind the microphone and we can talk about them, or we can say we can actually be involved in the things that affect us as society. But before we get into it, I want to share today's proverb with you, and I want to then be able to hear what your thoughts are around it, right?
Okay.
All right. So our proverbs this week come from Burkina Faso.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting to note that the Burkinabe have something interesting to say about where did they go? They are somewhere. Oh, I had him and then it disappeared. Sheesh. Okay, so the Burkinabe have quite a lot to say about togetherness and fairness, so that what may seem heavy to an ant may not be the case, but 100 ants brought together in unity can actually carry away an elephant.
Yeah. I think they're speaking on strength of community, what a community can do, and something that can seem so overwhelming to an individual. But when a community comes together, this gigantic task can seem done.
Yeah.
And actually, as somebody who watches ants for fun,
okay,
I see them do amazing things, including crossing rivers, as a whole community. So yeah. And as a Burkinabe, I do love the fact that Burkinabes have always been people of community, from Samora Machel. Not Samora.
Thomas Sankara.
To the current president right now. It's all about building togetherness. So yeah, that's what I'd see it as.
Fantastic. That's interesting, right? When the ants unite their mouths, they can carry an elephant. All right, so let's look into our conversation for today. Sheila, so a couple of days ago, you came out and you said, you know what, there should be a ban on this whole firecracker situation. And we saw that folks at Uhuru Park on New Year's Day, late that night, early the morning, people were burnt. We saw that people lost their property because of firecrackers and the fireworks that took place.
Yeah.
And it's been a source of celebration for the longest time. In our estates, the kids are, the firecrackers are going off, and it's what's locally known as baluti. But they're going off all the time. But now I think we've seen the most, at least public, reported injury and loss coming from this.
Yeah.
You called for a total ban. Why a ban and not just, can we be a little bit more careful?
Thank you so much, actually, for inviting me to speak about this particular issue. First, I just want to premise by saying to anyone who lost their property, to anyone who got injured, pole sana. And I mean, I hope you can be able to recover, because I saw one lady who had her whole house with every single thing was burnt down. And so that was the day before New Year's. I posted, and actually, to be honest, it was supposed to have happened in June when I posted this, because I live in an area where fireworks are prone, and I'm talking about big fireworks. So I started to notice that right after fireworks, the air would be so thick. Right? It's then I started to do a bit of research, and I started to realize, wow, these fireworks have like some really toxic stuff going on. So I live in a residential area. It's not a T. I live in a place which is demarcated for so it's a residential area. And this was happening often, especially when there's like celebrations. First, we started this fireworks scenario when it would be celebrations.
Right.
But now it's like anytime you can be able to, you want to launch something or you want to do something, you get that permit and you do your fireworks, which I don't have a problem with. But then I started to realize that things like birds, the cats, the dogs, the animals would be so, what's the word I'm looking for? Unsettled, right? Fearful. Then I started to ask myself, okay, when this person, because they say that they give a permit, but who gets alerted that there's fireworks? Whoever is, I mean, on New Year's or Diwali, I get it. But like the other times, when are you told there's fireworks? You just took care there's fireworks in the air. And so we started really looking at this scenario deeply and started to realize that it's not just about safety or health, it's also environment. And then when you look deeply, you start to realize that from where we were in, say, 2001 to now, there's definitely been an influx of fireworks. Is there any regulation on this? And God forbid, my family have this thing of saying that when I say something happens. It's unfortunate that I mentioned the ban the day before we started to see massive losses. But yeah, I'm not necessarily calling for a total ban, but there needs to be serious regulation. I mean, for the fact that we're talking about kids in the neighborhood with fireworks.
Yeah.
Right? Number two, okay, I might sound like, for those who are like, because I did have a lot of hate. A lot of people came to me and were like, you're just talking from a point of privilege, right? I want you to picture this. You're in your neighborhood, right? You're ready to celebrate fireworks, put them up, yeah? But then there's your neighbor who has a child of special needs. How do you prepare this child to understand that the rest of the country or everybody else needs to celebrate?
Okay.
Right? How then, after the celebrations have happened, how do you calm this kid all the way down? Or I'm not just talking about kids. So there needs to be a level of regulation. Like there are places where fireworks can happen. This is how you should alert people. These are the people who can handle fireworks, because what we are starting to realize is that whoever is vending these fireworks is giving them to whoever. Let me give you a second scenario, right? Imagine you're chilling in your house. Your neighbors have decided they're celebrating whatever, right? And it is well within their right to celebrate. And then because we don't have clear guidelines on regulations, this person lights fireworks and then it burns your house.
Okay. So you are involved.
So how then do you have that conversation? Because fireworks is explosive. I mean, we did see, it was a few years ago where we saw, was it Turkey, that massive fireworks explosion, and everybody was asking, was it a bomb? No, it was fireworks, right? So I feel like we're just handling fireworks so lightly, and it's time that we start to really seriously think about it. And then another thing that we never really think about is the environment. A few weeks ago, the AQI of Nairobi was announced, right? The air quality index, and it has drastically dwindled, right? Just yesterday I was doing some research, just looking at, because you can just check, if you can check the air quality index in your area, like places like Kasarani, Jesus Christ, I don't even know if they're breathing air, right? Because the quality every day is terrible, right?
So, and this is from what? This is from dust, this is from combustion, this is all of
all
this,
sorts of
right?
things happening there, right? So the day after fireworks, right, especially say like in my area, the air quality index moved from like 40 to like 160, right? 40 being moderate, 160 being unhealthy, right? And so these things, someone will say it's just one day, but would you inhale something that's terrible for you because it's just one day?
I hear what you're saying. So when we look at regulation, and this is one of the things, that regulation always comes in and fits. We say, okay, we're not saying ban it completely or get rid of it, because folks have a good time when you look at the lights and all of this. It's great when you hear the kids squealing in the estate and you think, okay, they're having a good time, right? And we don't often think about the danger that lies until we see a tragedy like what we saw, where people lose their property or people are burnt in one way or another. So what would regulation look like? What are we saying? In a controlled space, how would that actually work?
I think first, fireworks in residential areas should be banned. And I hear myself when I'm saying this, because I know that there are people who are listening and saying, Kombooks, we've been trying to fight a club in my neighborhood, right? For years. And there's nothing that's happening. I get it. But look, nobody sent me. I'm not here because there's a political party that sent me there to come and maybe make Sakaja feel bad about the fact that there's fireworks. No, I'm here to have a conversation as a citizen of this great nation and as someone who's pays taxes in Nairobi. And I'm asking myself, okay, if I can see the challenge with this and saying, since we love it and you've not seen anything yet, this fireworks is about to be like, next year it's even going to multiply, because there's so many people who've seen. Think of the amount of counties that were in darkness. And next year the governor said, hold my drink, right? I'm going to show you how it's done, right? There were villages that had fireworks, right? I'm not talking about something that, I'm not saying that we ban it. I'm saying because we love it so much, there's ways we can be able to handle this, that everybody is safe, right? So that everybody can be able to enjoy. And I think as a city that prides itself having a national park, just 15 minutes within, right? They read about the environmental sort of disturbance to the animals, right? So at the end of the day, we just need to be a bit responsible about this.
Sure, I hear you. And I look at and because we can say this here, because it's not advertising, because it already happened. If we look at the Old Mutual fireworks that took place, it was carried around the world. It was a world phenomenon. People were able to look at it and say, oh, this is amazing. That it made its way up there, because what do we usually see? The fireworks in Sydney, the ones in Dubai, some of the ones in New York, the world renowned. And then Old Mutual made it on that. And it's a great thing, which also does a good endorsement, for the nation. But it's interesting because these same fireworks and what they did locally in terms of how they affected people then was quite something in terms of some of the physical damage that was done. So how do you create that balance between something that will essentially put a nation on the map because of what they're able to do, and how it can then protect, or then in some cases, destroy property and lives? How do you create that balance?
It's interesting. You've actually just reminded me, I think it was last year, one of those big fireworks, there was a fire. I don't know if you remember, right? There was a fire, right? Fireworks are not a joke, right? Number two, I do appreciate moments where we are put on international platforms, right? But especially when I spoke about this, a lot of Kenyans came at me like, oh, if even London, they're doing it, if even Shanghai. I'm like, guys, you can have your own aspirational levels, right? You don't need to do something because another city is doing it, right? If you look at, for example, the one that broke the record for the year of fireworks display or something in the sky, because at the end of the day, it's what you mentioned. People like fireworks because it brings people together. They're able to look in the sky and just marvel. Can it be done in silence?
Can it though?
Can it? But yes, it can. China has shown us that drones in the sky. We're late to the fireworks party. If we're being honest, we're late to the fireworks party. There are cities that have been doing it for decades, right? We're just catching up and now just saying, wow, we've arrived. But can we make it environmentally friendly? Can we make it something that's not, it's not unsafe? Can we make it that it's healthy? Right?
I hear what you're saying. But the very elements of this thing is that something is going to combust. There's fire. I mean, the word itself has fire in it. Something is going to burn, and that's just the way that it is. Where is how would you view the argument that people say, come on, Kwambooks, it's one day. It's one day, we see the bright lights, we say Happy New Year, and we keep it moving.
That's not true.
No?
Fireworks happens much, much more times in Nairobi than the average Nairobian cares to know. Do you know how many events happen in Nairobi? Right? So fireworks started as this novel thing that would be on Diwali. or Happy New Year, right? And then it became an event space. And then it became a thing. If I'm launching a building today, I'm going to have fireworks. If I'm going to do this party, I'm going to have fireworks. I'm having a concert, we're going to have fireworks. So there's much more fireworks in a year than people are willing to admit. And the challenge is, I mean, I can understand, for example, New Year's, right? But when most of these times, you're not aware. You're not being told, you're not being alerted that there's going to be fireworks. It's just that a guy has woken up and there's like, fireworks, right? But they've alerted the city, but you as a resident have not been alerted here. So I think eventually we'll have to look at safer ways of doing. There needs to be places where fireworks should not happen, especially in residential areas.
Okay.
Yeah, you should be able to go watch fireworks a bit far from the city. Yeah.
Okay, so when we look at what happened in Nairobi, or we look at the family in Gitaru who lost, who do you think should be responsible?
And these are the questions. These are the deep questions. Who should be handling fireworks, right? Would you give, because when we're talking about fireworks, for the longest time, you can walk to a shop and buy a baruti or whatever, right? In the case of this house that got burnt down burnt down, it was a similar experience, right? Who should be handling fireworks, right? And worse still, if this was at least, I'm not saying that it's the right situation, but at least the perpetrator is from the home, right? But in an event that the neighbor's child has burnt down your house, how do you handle that situation?
Yeah,
right. It was an accident, right? So, and worse still, a whole complex or whatever other damage that could happen, right? Or death.
Or noise pollution. We're looking at noise and environmental pollution. And this is interesting that you bring this up because, okay, so first of all, is it baluti? Is it baruti?
Baruti.
It's baruti.
Baruti.
It's baruti. Yeah. Okay, got it. We're hearing them. We're still hearing them now.
Yes.
I mean, it was before Christmas and even before that, there was Diwali, and then before that, or a random Saturday evening where kids are bored and then they're blasting the thing about.
Yeah.
In my estate at the moment, people are having a conversation. You know how it is, the proverbial WhatsApp estate group. People are having a conversation about, okay, well, do we need to say that don't do it at all? That there's noise pollution, but at the same time there are kids who are experimenting and the possibility of them getting hurt, because you can actually blow your finger off if you don't do it right? So these are real conversations that are happening at the moment, because yes, it's not just New Year's and Christmas, but it gives us an avenue to have this conversation.
I think it's crazy.
Do we need to say that kids should not be with this at all? Should this conversation be elevated? Because the conversations are happening, whether we want to be the proverbial ostrich or not. The conversations are happening in terms of how to protect children, to protect the environment, noise pollution. People asking, so okay, it's great, this is nice, but how long are we going to have to listen to this for? You see,
here's my question, fellow Kenyans, right? Can we first answer some simple questions? Are fireworks dangerous? Okay, let's start with the best one, right? Is fireworks fun? I think we can all agree that in the right environment, they're fun, right? Are they dangerous? Would you buy fireworks and give your child?
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So why are we having a conversation around whether it's, how do we address this? This is a legislation issue. There should be laws around whether somebody can be able to access. There's some things which are so crazy, right? There are things which I find so hilariously crazy, and sometimes I think they just need a bit of logic, right? If you walk into a supermarket with a knife, right? Like let's say you have a dagger, right? You know what will happen? The askari will ask you to remove it because no weapons. But you can buy a dagger, a whole knife, a barbecue knife in the shelf.
Yeah.
And even choose which one, right?
Yeah.
The logic there is missing, because the amount of damage I can be able to do with those knives that are just lying around there. But someone will ask, but there's no law around this. But you've locked the DOs in a glass case, because you're afraid we'll steal. There are bigger challenges happening here, right? So I'm saying, when we look at this fireworks issue, let's not wait till it happens in your house, right? Let's just make it safe. Just the way you walk in the supermarket and they've put all the things they don't want you to steal in the glass, right? That it should be difficult to be able to access this. there are people who are probably handling fireworks who have no idea how fireworks are handled. I've been to concerts where the fireworks has literally just flown right above my head because the person who's lighting it clearly didn't know what they were doing, right? And you saw Alan Chesang's house, right? They're just lucky that the fire didn't do what it did in Gitaru, right? So we're seeing so many, and people are just like, right? But when real damage happens, right? And I don't want to be, because it's easy to laugh when it's, you're watching somebody it on the video. But like you wake up and your house has been burnt down. When will that be funny? Or someone has been injured. Worse still, someone has died. Yeah, so I think there needs to be just legislation. That's it. Let's just make sure that there's better fireworks management in Nairobi, right? And other counties can emulate for sure. But let's not look at this scenario like, hey, at least we've reached the world stage, so it doesn't matter how we handle this. My guy, fireworks can kill.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even as we look at that and look at the deeper conversations, because then these go around towards environmental issues and things like this, is that, people come from the premise whereby we say, okay, so if it were to be regulated, where would this, there seems to be, it's not something that comes into the minds of people until something happens, right? It's just like somebody says, well, perhaps I need to be checking and seeing if approvals are made because a building has fallen down. Yeah. Whereby we are saying you should be sure that those approvals are in place anyway. We shouldn't have to wait for a building to collapse before we ask the question or to make sure that people have actually done their job.
Absolutely.
So, but there seems that there is no, we don't really recognize it because it's bright lights in the sky, or it's that noise where kids are squealing, and then we go to bed and we forget about it. Wake up the next morning and we are gone.
It's true.
There seems to be no recognition of it as an issue, Sheila. That is just, it's a good time, and then we're moving.
That's why I woke up Ndu on a day where I should absolutely be in bed stretching my legs and like the rest of Kenyans, but nimejileta to the radio to speak about this particular issue because God forbid that I've seen the challenge, I've seen the gap, and then I keep quiet, assuming that everybody is seeing what I'm seeing. And I think that's what it calls to be an active citizen. So there are a few things we can do. Before I started to do research on this, I was as clueless about fireworks as probably someone who's listening to me right now, and that came from seeing what was happening to the birds, to the cats, to the dogs. If anyone who has pets knows exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes it can take 12 hours trying to calm your pet down, right? And then you start thinking like nobody gave these animals heads up, But that's beside the point. Note for those who are like, wanyama tena. There are countries that have banned fireworks because of the animals. Right? They said, and these are first world countries, as you're basically comparing yourself to, I don't know, Singapore. Netherlands has banned fireworks. And simply because it's just this animals, and then environment issues. But hey, if we're not willing to ban, what are some things we can do? We can enforce Kenyan explosive and fireworks regulations. They are there.
Okay.
Right? They're there. Limit fireworks to licensed professionals and controlled venues, right? So now, before we used to see fireworks like, say, Kani, Uhuru Park, right? Now we're seeing them in your neighborhood. The supermarket in your neighborhood has decided they're going to do fireworks. You don't know what the controlled scenario is there. Establish clear permitted times, locations, and display durations, right? So to answer the question, when you're saying how long should we listen to this noise, there should be a cap. Right? From this time to this time, you're allowed to do fireworks. Past this time, you can be arrested. Right? Require safety planning, crowd control, and fireworks, fire lighting readiness. Now, this is so crucial because I've seen at events, right, where I've told you I've even ducked, right? Because that clearly means that the person who's handling the fireworks had not communicated the right guidelines, the distance that we're supposed to be standing by the fireworks etc. There's also the environmental responsibility. We can encourage alternatives such as low fireworks noise. Low noise fireworks. Imagine it's a thing. Low noise fireworks. Like, look, you and your company have decided you want to do a launch, right? And it's happening in Langata. Why must the people in Githurai
Sheila
be a part of that kutwatwa? You get what I'm saying? So we can imagine there's something like low noise fireworks, drone shows. And I want to urge events guys, right? We're in 2026. Yeah, but now you remember 2025 to watch. We're in 26. We can have exciting drone fireworks. I mean, drone displays. Did you see what China did? I mean, if we're going to aspire to be like the first world, let's go for the number one, right? Did you see what they did with the drone show? It was absolutely mind blowing. Let's get there, right? Laser displays, because if it's about the lighting, does it need the noise as much? You know, there's also. Did you know that after the fireworks happens, the things, the residue that they remove? Yeah. Have you ever asked yourself where it goes?
Where does it go?
Where does it go? It comes and settles in your water areas, right? So it settles on water, it settles on your environment, right? Which is toxic stuff, right? So at the end of the day, we need to educate the public on risks and laws, because we love fireworks. It seems Kenyans love fireworks, right? But where is the education on how dangerous this thing can be? And did you see the mother in the one who her house burnt down? She was in shock. She couldn't believe that fireworks can do such damage, right? Promote safe celebration traditions, right? Let's be honest, fireworks came, I don't know from where, but we can also embrace other ways to celebrate such traditions. And basically, the most important, I think we need to engage event organizers, centers who handle fireworks to do it responsibly. Because at the end of the day, there's a responsibility to anyone who's handling. I mean, this is under the Explosives and Fireworks Act. So clearly, it's something dangerous.
I mean, let's broaden this conversation just a little bit, because I look at 2025 and we look at the number of complaints that come from private individuals as well as others. Dennis Aseto, who sits in the studio as well, talks about complaints of noise pollution from a nearby establishment. There has been one case of one, Kenyan, and she has been easily for years complaining about an establishment in her neighborhood and about the noise that they make. And you live next to a church, you live next to a club, and the noise pollution for people has been a lot. There's a neighborhood just to the east of us who have had to move, whose children, for example, to date have lung issues because of the burning that takes place by a nearby factory. These are things that we are talking about.
I had to move, actually.
You see? These are real conversations.
And I addressed the governor about the smog, which is a whole other issue. Look, Ndu, at the end of the day, I want anyone who's listening to me this morning to not take it like, because there are people who, and I think it's we've become so politically charged as we're going into 2027 that everybody thinks that everything someone is talking about must be, there must be an incentive. Maybe she's importing drones. That's why she's maybe she's fighting with the guys for fireworks. I'm just an active citizen. That's what it is. I'm just someone who's seen something and said, hey, can we figure out how to do this safely and well, right? And at the end of the day, if us as citizens, for example, the noise issue, right? Or any other bad behavior that's happening in our city, there are people who think that, like the proverb that you just gave us, and it's so timely because we're talking about, working as a community. There are like-minded people. Not everybody is okay with stuff as it is. Not everybody is okay to see the garbage or the things that are not working, and they're just like, I'm going to keep quiet because I don't want to be confrontational. It's not about being confrontational. It's about you're a citizen of Earth. You're here to live, right? If something is not working, right, who are you expecting to come and fix it? If it's not pinching my shoe, this fireworks issue is pinching my shoe. I have a cat. I love animals. I love the environment. I care about the oxygen that I'm breathing, right? I care about the water that I'm consuming. It's my responsibility to care where the water that I'm drinking, because it's not coming from Fiji. It's coming from here, Nairobi water.
It's interesting that you put it that way, Sheila, because a lot of times we seem to be disengaged from some kind of reality.
Yeah.
Because the things that people will weigh, it's interesting because I've even seen a comment here this morning where somebody's saying, let's talk about things that are let's talk about things that are serious. When it's politics, it's serious, but when you want to ask a question about the air that you're breathing, for you to be alive and maintain a certain quality of life tomorrow. These are some of the things that we talk about. When we talk about noise pollution, when we talk about air pollution, when we talk about lack of quality sleep, we may think these are not important things, but they contribute to the entire equation when it comes to individuals and human beings as we are. And so that's why the conversation needs to be broadened for us to say, we can look at fireworks on New Year's Day or at a concert, right? Or we can look at the environment as a whole, plugging into this system where we as human beings want to then be able to exist in. Who's watching out for those things?
I can tell you from what I'm seeing, right? We live in a world where people think that it's about the money, right? I'll give you a case in point. I've spoken about the AQI, which is the Air Quality Index, and I'm not speaking because I'm a scientist. I'm speaking because I'm a active citizen, right? You start to notice that all of a sudden, your chest, and then you ask yourself, like, Kwani, is there something I'm consuming that's making my chest behave like this? And then you start to do research, and then you realize that you're not the only person in your area that's having such issues. Let me give you an example. Kasarani that I mentioned, right? Yeah. So the AQI most of the time is at 160. Right, which is unhealthy, right? It's unhealthy air that you're taking into your lungs every day, right? Then I decide, of course, when you read something like that, you ask yourself, okay, AQI, whatever. Let's look at the actual data on the ground. Someone has done research. There's research on this in just that area of Kasarani around respiratory issues. Right? And then you start to realize the environment, the oxygen, the air that you guys are breathing there is creating numerous problems. I think I read like about 15 core issues that people are going to hospital for. Now, if I'm a resident of this area, I have two options. I either leave, right? Or start figuring out how to make small improvements to my environment. I'm not saying that you can do this by yourself, but you can play a part, right? So I'm playing my part and saying, can we do better fireworks management, right? And there is a petition that you can sign. I think it's on change.org. Apparently, this petition has been going on for 8 years. I didn't even know. I didn't even know that there are people for 8 years who've been saying we need to ban put a stop to how we're doing it and handle it better. But at the end of the day, we as Kenyans and Nairobians, right? I'm going to speak for as a Nairobian. You have a civic duty, right? If you're sitting, look. It's New Year's, right? And all the politicians are just talking politics.
Sure.
Right? So who's supposed to be talking about the things that... should I be seated here talking about this environment stuff? Don't I have an MCA? Don't I have an MP? Don't I have a governor? Don't I have a... But there's so... Like the person who's just texted, there's so many issues on the table. But does it mean that when I hire representation, then me as a citizen, sasa kazi ni kusema haya, sini kazi yako?
Yeah.
You know? It's like people who go to the doctor. And I have to say that I use this example all the time. You go to the doctor, you're ailing, right? You've been going through the pain yourself.
Yeah.
Then you get to the doctor and say, heal me, right? You don't realize that you going to the doctor is a partnership. That
you have a part to play.
You have the experience of knowing your body, and they have the experience of having knowledge in medicine. And they are going to give you they're going to deduct until they get to what they think the problem is, and you're as well supposed to sit there with them. But what ends up happening? The doctor said take this 5 times a day, and you take it religiously, and even if nothing happens, you don't care because the doctor said. It is your responsibility to ask questions. It is your responsibility, if something doesn't feel right, to speak about it. That's it.
That's it. And here, so there are 2 things that come to mind here, and that we're going to have to peel away some of the layers here and say, okay, is it this imagery is such a big thing for me sometimes, because this forms a basis for a conversation around 2 things. Number 1, the enforcement of laws, and number 2, being involved in things. So it is Sheila and fireworks today, or it is tomorrow it's somebody dumping waste inside the river, which now, if we look at some of these things that we talk about today, 58.8% of the waste that finds its way to the Indian Ocean is plastics. 78.4% is from companies. Is from companies with packaging in this Kenya.
Yeah.
So we can sit and we can say, okay, so then what happens? And you don't realize it later. What are the diseases that people are presenting themselves to hospital with today? From the food that you eat. So what happens? The animals are drinking water, eating what? See, these are some of the things that we're talking about.
Did you see the whale that had swallowed plastic?
That was unfortunately the big story.
So again, to what you've just said, right? Now, somebody who the question you just asked will answer and say, that's why I have a member of parliament. After 5 years, we'll decide. I'm like, when you're a child, you can say that. But when you're an adult who pays taxes, who's lived, who has experience, you understand that is wishful thinking. Because if it was the case, then Kenya ingekuwa Singapore, right? Already, si kwa aspire, tungekuwa huko sahi, right? So our leaders, for whatever reason, right? We pick whatever we pick, right? But at the end of the day, for Kenya, for there to be actual change, for things that we're seeing happen, you're seeing this needs to change, you need to play a part, right? Let me give you an example. So the issue you said for plastics, right? Or companies dumping and their waste ending up in the ocean. Who's going to pick up that stuff?
Exactly.
Somebody has already collected their profit, right? They've already pocketed, they've done their thing, right? In fact, some of them you'll find they're multinational. So the money has already landed in the banks outside.
Not touching you, yeah.
You know, so let's imagine I'm making this water, right? It cost me 45 bob to make this water. I sell it for 100 bob. I have my profit, I've gone, right? But it costs us as a community 100,000 to get rid of that 45 bob. It costs us 100,000 to get rid of that one bottle. Don't you think we should have a conversation with this person? Like, hey, your responsibility doesn't end there. Because ocean, when it gets spoiled, or all the waterways, or when the air is messed up, you don't have another place to go. I mean, are you watching the world right now? Are you watching the world? They don't want you to leave this. They don't want you to leave this continent. You need to stay here, right? And you're not going to another country. So it's your responsibility to take care. And if you're thinking that my MP will come, when have you ever seen? So it is you to speak about these things. It is you to push your MP to do these things. It is you to be an active citizen and not get tired. I'm not tired of speaking about fireworks. My God, I was insulted. In fact, we still had men, mostly men, in my DMs insulting me, telling me, anyway, there's no point of repeating the stuff that they told me. It was so hilarious.
Yeah.
Because I'm fighting for you, and then you're fighting me. That's when you know that phrase in the Bible, my people die because of lack of knowledge. I can paraphrase it. They are dying because of idiocy, right? We're talking about there's plastic in the What about that one who drinks and throws the plastic outside
the window?
When you're talking to that person about, hey, there should be a corporate responsibility on the person who's creating this product, they're going to tell you, Sasa, you can't reason. But at the end of the day, it is our responsibility, whether you still have this person who wants to stay in the idiot side of the world. As you fix things, you just got to make it right. Because at the end of the day, even when we ban this or regulate the fireworks, it will still benefit this person.
There is a cyclical nature to some of these conversations that we have. And the one that is taking the nation by storm is, fortunately or unfortunately, this one about the first world. Singapore, of course, being the blue-eyed boy in terms of where this all goes. And we may not see it. Sheila Kwambok sitting here talking about fireworks, somebody talking about plastics, somebody talking about pesticides tomorrow. That's the cyclical nature of this conversation. Because guess what? Countries like Singapore, they took things like this into consideration.
Yes.
They took things like garbage into consideration. You cannot chew gum in public in Singapore. That's how micro it got. So right now the conversation in the country, and that is going to be peddled by the administration for however long, is going to be just that. So do we look at the details in terms of what it is? People might be saying, you started off the year with a conversation about fireworks. Yes, we did. Because it represents the larger conversation that we are not having. Guys, just calm down a little bit, and I'm going to ask in a way I've never done before. Calm down a little bit and look at the bigger picture that we're talking about here. It is fireworks and residue that falls, that is still smoldering, that burnt somebody's house in Gitaru. It is what caused the Great Swiss Fire. It is what caused people to have injuries. It's the thing that we're talking about. So when you extrapolate, it is about the regulation and enforcement of these regulations.
Yeah.
That why do things like that not happen? Why does regulation not happen? Why does enforcement not happen? And you tell me you want to get to the first world? We started off this conversation at 6 o'clock this morning. If we are not engaged in conversations like this, can we really say that we are on this journey, Sheila?
Absolutely not. You know, it's interesting that we talk about Singapore. To be honest, I don't like comparing Kenya with any country. I like saying that we are the creators. We have an opportunity to create the future that we want. But unfortunately, because the future that we want will not transpire in the way that we want unless we fix the way we see our environment, right? So yes, is Kenya moving forward 100%? Will we be around to be able to access some of these things? If things like water, we're talking about, management of water. I mentioned a bit about it on the fireworks issue. You find that deforestation is a big issue in a country that's semi-arid and arid, right? Deforestation is a big conversation. The other day, the president on this side is mentioning 15 billion trees. On this other side, opening mouth for cutting down trees.
Yeah,
and so. For me, I look at a scenario, yes, we will get to a place where Kenya will be like Singapore, right? But it will be very, very expensive to be able to access basic commodities, right? Today I was watching a video of a lady in China, right?
Yeah.
In China, Sazile, for example, water is like electricity, right? And I started thinking about if you had prepaid water where it katikas right, as soon as you're cooking and it just goes off.
It's like
right?
your units.
Yes, like your units for that's
power.
water,
Yeah.
right? Which means that the day if you don't have, you don't have water, and it sounds like such that's what happens, but this is the future that we're going to if we don't protect the environment that we're talking about on simple things like fireworks, right? On simple things of saying, wait, so this can impact the environment and I should care about that. I'm like, if you don't care about this, how will you care that your waterways are being damaged, that your trees are being cut down? And so, yes, you will get to the first world, but the resources of water and clean air will be finite. And so living in a place where there's good air and water will be like buying diamonds, right? And that's exactly what's currently happening. Look at the people who are living in Kasarani. You're probably living there because you can't move or afford to stay somewhere else, right? The oxygen is already terrible. This is the same scenario with India, and I give this example of India and China, right? India and China reached a place where the oxygen was terrible. They both were given solutions. China handled it in their way, India handled it in their way. When 2 weeks ago we were talking about India having smog that they couldn't even see anything. Right? That's oxygen. At that point, who are you calling? Your MP.
Oh,
there's no oxygen. Like there's we can't see each other and we're sitting this far.
This is true.
Right?
Yeah.
At that point, who are you calling? And China didn't have they had a similar situation, but they fixed it. They used the money in the thing that it was supposed to be used for. India, the money was eaten. Right? That's why I tell you, you gotta look at these things from an individual perspective. Because if this was Kenya, even if we're a first world country, right? And we found a scenario like this and we've put money, so we need to start embracing taking care of the environment now when it's not too expensive, when it's not so damaging, when it's not, there are more people living in, and there'll be another 100,000 people who are moving to Kenya this year, right? Who are coming for those houses, who are coming for proper gentrification, right? Which is it's a good thing and a bad thing. But resources, finite resources is what we're talking about here. I'm not here to discuss at TCG someone's building or whatever. I'm here to just say, let's make fireworks management better and look at the whole issue from environment, safety and health perspective.
So to make management of things better seems to be something that we seem to be able to escape quite a lot, that we can leave it over there, unfortunately, until something festers. There's a crack in the wall.
Absolutely.
I gave folks the story this morning of over the holiday. I saw a building that had a major crack in it from the ground to the top.
You're talking, and there's someone who's in that house right now.
What are you saying? They're living there, and the guy came and said, we have to bring this thing down. We have to bring it down, otherwise you're living in that thing. It could be tomorrow, it could be next week, it could be next month, but this thing will come down. If it comes down when you're inside, then it'll be terrible. But I'm telling you, let's take it down now. And now that cracked building scenario is unfortunately what we seem to be living by, right, across the board. Whether it's fireworks that you speak about today, it's a situation that could become somebody's house was burnt. It could be something worse tomorrow. It's the state of rivers and water. Then we ask ourselves tomorrow, what will happen when water sources deplete? So the management of regulation is an issue. The enforcement of regulation is an issue. And they're agents of this regulation. They are called MCAs. They are called members of parliament, whom you vote in. Now, can we now tie this together?
Yeah.
Because we started the conversation and we followed through about fireworks. But if we tie it up to say that the agents of regulation whom you select and have a responsibility to keep accountable for the period in which they will sit in that position, they have a job to do.
Absolutely.
You have a job to do by keeping them accountable. Do we see that folks are ready to do that?
Look, if you don't hear anything I said today, maybe I can sum it up by saying, let's be active citizens. From my experience, I've lived in a country where I was told, your MP, and then I voted. I voted a couple of times and realized that the people I waste my time going to the ballot for, they become tumbocrats, right? And I think. And some of these people who have engaged with it individually before and after, right? And I think one of the key things that stands out is that Kenyans are not taking part in the things that matter to them, right? Once you give the job to the person, I've just given the example of going to the doctor. Once you go to the doctor, once the doctor has told you, relax, you relax. Even if you know you have a pain, in the same place, now you're down, it's not working. But since the doctor said relax, you go to the afterlife relaxed. Right? You know what I'm saying?
That's it.
But it takes being an active citizen, right, for us to actually see change. So for me, the issue is the fireworks. For you, it's something else. Maybe it could be garbage in your area. Maybe for you, you've picked and you've seen this situation of lights, we can fix it like this. Maybe for you, it's sanitation. I don't know what it is, but we need to be more active citizens. The idea that there's somebody in the driver's seat and the rest of us are just in the restaurant just waiting for waiters to serve us is crazy, right? We're all taking part in building this nation, and there's no what do you call destination? There's no ati we'll reach the place and then ati tumefika. There's no kufika. Every day we must be an active citizen. Every day, because there are things that are happening, and not everything is for complaining. And even here, I'm not here to complain. I'm here to educate, open eyes, see if there's like-minded people who think, hey, I think that there's a point on this story for fireworks. Then let's have the discourse. I'm not coming here to say to ban fireworks. No.
Regulate the thing.
Let's regulate it. And there's laws. There's laws around this. Let's have them enforced, right? Because leo unanisikia, you're hearing me and you're like, then tomorrow it's your house that has burned down. Then you're coming to the news to give us a story. Now, should we listen to you? So let's make sure the right regulation is there. Let's be active citizens. It's a good year. It's a nice year to start being a good citizen who's active, who's not watching things happening and saying, ngoja time yangu ifike. I mean, there are Kenyans who are seated in a place where they can see bad things happening. Bad things. And then there's this notion that no, it's none of my business. You're the financer of this nonsense. If you pay taxes, you're just basically you're watching someone in your own home stealing, but then saying, I'm not going to do anything about it. everybody has a part.
Is there a disconnect, Sheila?
Yeah.
Because this is a thing that it's very easy for us. It's kind of like this grand screen television, and we're watching these things happening. You're like, oh my God, this thing is terrible. But we're watching it.
Yeah,
it's
and even
affecting you.
high-fiving.
It's affecting you. It's going to affect generations to come in one way or another. But we seem to be enjoying the entertainment. We're not involved in whether it is speaking, whether it's having a conversation, whether it is insisting for accountability, whether it is ensuring that certain things happen, that's calling people out, whether it's people who are tossing something out the window and saying, hey man, you shouldn't do that, whether it's people who are overlapping, whether it's people who are, I mean, come on, the list is endless.
It's endless.
But we seem to be able to watch this big thing on the big screen, and then we go home at the end of the entertainment.
Yeah, we're good citizens. But I also want to say this to Kenyans, right? I've met a lot of Kenyans who last year was not a great year for them. I've met a few who said last year was their best year. Wash. No, sorry. Yeah. My bad, I'm joking. I'm not the standard. But yeah, there's a lot of people who said that, including myself, last year was hella hectic. You know, there was barely any money floating in the system, right? But in the same breath, right? I just want to let you know that, guys, every day in that bad year, 2 billion, 3 billion was being lost every day. 3 billion, right? Now, I know there's this narrative that Kenyans have. Oh, money is stolen everywhere in the world, even in the US, corruption happens, right? But you see, it takes active citizens. Like, how do we think this corruption thing will end? Like, I just, just bear with me. We started off with the ants and the group of ants, right? And we see that, and I told you, I watch ants every day do amazing things together. I've watched Kenyans behave like ants and do amazing things together. You know, I was part of Mandamano last year. And so many other amazing things we've managed to do as people together, right? How do you think this corruption thing will end? Yeah? If, for example, I've woken up and I've said, let's put a better management on fireworks, and I'm pushing, I'm doing my part, right? But how do we think this corruption thing will end, right? You're raising kids, showing them how exactly it's supposed to. In fact, if anything, parents at this point are now teaching their kids how to be corrupt. Before it used to, you see, but now you are being taught directly from the parent, right? It's never going to end. It's never going to end. Right? It's not going to be a miraculous thing where we'll put a law and then people's hands will stop stealing. That's not what's going to happen. It takes you to play your part. So all I'm saying is, every single Kenyan, believe me, that little thing that you're doing where you're saying, I don't want to touch this, or you're playing a part. And you shouldn't feel bad that nobody's watching you not being corrupt. Just do it in silence.
Absolutely.
Come on.
It's in silence. Sheila Kwamboka Kwambooks, thank you for being here this morning. Kapow, indeed. To open eyes at whatever level. Yeah. It's important that
Thank you, Ndu, for the chance to speak about this. And to any Kenyan who's interested in this, there is a petition, which was, I think it's 8 years old. So check it out, and let's see if we can be able to get legislation around this properly enforced.
And to move the thing. Thank you so much. It's 8:02. Conversations continue. Thanks for doing this morning. Good morning.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. President William Ruto has vowed to disarm all criminals in the Rift Valley and across the country, saying sustainable development cannot be achieved without peace, unity and stability. He was speaking on Sunday while attending an interdenominational church service at Chesumbur in West Pokot County. Ruto said the government has made significant progress in restoring peace in the Kerio Valley, a region that for decades has been plagued by deadly banditry and intercommunal conflicts. Issuing a stern warning to armed civilians, Ruto said the era of illegal firearms was coming to an end.
Kila mtu mwenye bado wako na bunduki, na wewe si polisi, na uko na bunduki kwako, my friend, please, harakisha. Lete bunduki, patia kwa bishop, patia kwa polisi. Usipofanya hivyo, we are going to come for it. Tutakuja kuchukua hiyo bunduki. Na tukikuja kuchukua hiyo bunduki, utakipata. Si nimesema mapema mchana? Muwafikishie habari. Na kama wanataka kujua Waulize wale walikuwa na bunduki hapa.
The Director of Public Prosecutions has ordered immediate investigations into the collapse of a building in South Sea, Nairobi last Friday. In a statement, Renson Ingonga said he empathizes with family members of those that were and are still trapped under the debris. He directed the Inspector General of Police to immediately initiate or fast-track investigations into the circumstances surrounding the collapse. He gave the police 7 days to conclude investigations and submit a comprehensive report to his office for further action. As schools reopen for term 1 of the 2026 academic year today, many parents are facing an overwhelming financial strain and are struggling to raise school fees and other necessities. In Limuru, these parents lamented over hiked transport and prices of school supplies.
Mfumo wa elimu ambao tuko nao kwa sasa unahitaji tununue vitabu mingi sana, kama ambao wanapeleka watoto junior secondary, kuna wenye wanapeleka watoto form 4. So unapata pia maisha karo, mwalimu anasema karo ulipe yote kwa jumla ndio akuchukulie mtoto.
Fare imepanda juu kidogo, maisha iko juu kidogo, and na leo kwa sababu watu wengi wana shughuli za kurudisha watoto shuleni, hata bei za vitu unaona zimeongezwa kidogo. Ukiangalia pande ya vitabu, kama kitabu ulikuwa unanunua around 40 bob, unakuta sasa iko 50. Ukiangalia kama vitu kama rangi ya viatu yenyewe, uniform, kama sasa napeleka kijana wangu anaingia grade 7, zile longi zenye tulikuwa tunanunua around 400, unakuta this round iko around 500.
In Kajiado County, a number of parents said the cost of living crisis has been exacerbated by drought as they are unable to fetch good prices for their livestock due to decreased buying power.
Ng'ombe ndio tegemeo la wakaaji wa Kajiado, lakini kwa msimu kama hii shule zinikifunguliwa tunalia, maana bei iko chini na itabaki kwamba watoto wengi hawataweza kwenda shule.
Tangu mwezi ile ingine tulikuwa tunauza ng'ombe 120, 150, sasa hii imeshushwa kabisa. Unaweza pata ng'ombe kama hii ndogo nauzwa 25,000, 22,000.
Kati ilikuwa na kiangazi ilikuwa na ng'ombe 46. Sasa zimekufa na kiangazi na baki na ng'ombe 17. Sasa ninaona ni mbaya wakati huu kwa sababu hata ile bei ambayo nilikuwa natarajia kuuza haiendi.
Donald Trump has warned Venezuela's new leader, Delcy Rodriguez, she could pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro, if she doesn't do what's right. His comments to U.S. magazine The Atlantic came as the country's deposed President Nicolas Maduro was set to appear in a New York court on Monday. The U.S. accuses Maduro, who's charged with drug trafficking and weapons offenses, of running a narco-terrorist regime, a claim he denies. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has insisted the U.S. is not at war with Venezuela after airstrikes in Caracas on Saturday led to Maduro and his wife being taken into custody and transported to the U.S. Some Democratic lawmakers said the operation was an act of war. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
He himself actually has admitted that he bribed members of parliament, so...
he admitted that he bribed members of parliament?
Well, when he said...
The government.
Yeah, when he said that he gave the 10 million was for what?
We're always quick to point faults in somebody else before you look at your own faults as a person.
If it was Kanu's day, hii amuka naye leo, ungekuwa umeenda bali sana hii. And we must celebrate you.
There are 600 million people now globally estimated to be living with diabetes in the world. So it is a major health problem. It's the largest single disease rising pandemic that we're dealing with right now.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow
I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who were initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't, let me tell you, you saw the other parliamentary group meeting, people went there, sat, listened, looked at him, there was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice. When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, getting into it at 11 minutes after 8 o'clock, and a very good morning to you. A third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation on this Monday, the 5th of January, 2026. You know what? It's a few years till it was 2030, but we're moving it to 2055. So, you know, we're not to worry. All coming into it. I'll tell you who's here in just a minute. After I tell you to remember that you need to use your KCB card today. When was the last time your everyday payments actually paid you back? With the KCB winning card, every pay takes you closer to a major win. So here's all you have to do. Use your KCB credit, debit, or prepaid card whenever you pay for shopping, fueling your year, grabbing lunch, or shopping online. You get a chance to win weekly, monthly, and also there's a grand prize. So I'm telling you, 10,000 bob every week is quite something. 100,000 shillings every month is something. Can we use that as a word? And the grand prize is a holiday getaway to Zanzibar for two, complete with flights and accommodation. So paying with your KCB card is fast, it's secure, and it's rewarding. So don't just shop. Shop smart and win big. The more you pay with your KCB card, the higher your chances of winning. Use your KCB card today. It is the winning card. Terms and conditions apply. But KCB is for people. And it is for better. We're getting into conversations this morning. And guess what? Joe Kamanya is here. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Joe.
How are you?
Well, I'm as good. I'm as new as the year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And to everybody else. It's a very nice year to... I mean, there's a lot to look forward to. We have like 360 days. So there has to be something for somebody to at least aspire to. we see how it plays out, and wishing everybody a prosperous year.
Absolutely.
Should be a year of action, I presume.
It must be.
We've lamented for far too long.
But no,
so if there's a project you need to start, get going.
Just do it.
If there's a relationship you need to end, just do it. If there's a diet you need to get on, do it. So let's just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Right.
This is the time to do it. It's good to see you, and of course, for joining this conversation. Thank you for doing that with us this week. It's necessary for us to have. I said this is a year where things started guns blazing, literally. Donald Trump gave a New Year's, or rather a Christmas present to Nigeria, seems to have been giving a New Year's present to Venezuela. From the outset. But what's really happening behind the scenes might be something, totally different.
Indeed.
My gospel is that there's nothing the US is touching if it doesn't benefit them in one way or another, resource-wise.
Agreed.
Reaganomics is still the order of the day. Yeah.
And it kind of speaks to a lot of the things that needs to be done in the spirit of let's do it. Because when there's this global order. After the World War II, all the countries sat down and they said, heads of state are out of bounds. You cannot go into a country and abduct, because that was an abduction.
Sovereignty, my God.
Yeah. So to avert the sovereignty of the Venezuelan people, much as that could be said about the leadership of Maduro, it speaks a lot to what needs to be done in terms of regulating law and order, respecting sovereignty and democracy. What really is democracy? And who decides that this is good for that particular country? But we all know there's a lot of politics around the resources. It is said Venezuela holds. Venezuela is our DRC Congo. And one must wonder, why is it that all countries in the world that have a high concentration of resources, there is war?
My dear.
And in all those countries, there is no production of guns. But there is constant supply of ammunition for people to continue. Even Nigeria, look at it. So a lot needs to be done. People, there are different opinions floating about. Some are saying he was a dictator. Others are saying no, the sovereignty matters. And I stand with those who are saying sovereignty, because there has to be instruments on how to empower our people, and people can decide how they want to be led.
What kind of an affront do you think would have been experienced by the United States if it would ever to be a thing where somebody were to walk into Washington, take over and put you on a plane and cut you off somewhere, if the country would not be up in arms the very next minute? Where would it be the same?
That's a good question.
Absolutely. Those are some of the things that we talk about today, because that's a real situation. And I think we need to see this for more than it is. That the geopolitics of the day is being played out here on the globe, and it's being there are many countries which are being used. We can't also run away from the fact that de-dollarization is a phenomenon. It's something that's happening today. The Chinese yuan is being used in more countries than is palatable for the US to imagine. And that would happen in a country like Venezuela, where Henry Kissinger in the 1970s negotiated that dollars then be used for all of these transactions, and it would seem as though many countries are heading in the opposite direction, in this case east. It's not something that the US is happy to see happening.
Not happy.
So we must see this for what it really is.
And Venezuela is going to be another playground like Ukraine. Remember, Ukraine did not go to war with Russia, but it's the US and the Russia, then they decided this is where they want to play their game. Now we have China and US coming to play in Venezuela. And the other question that a lot of people are not talking about is how an entire security system of Venezuela was compromised.
Come on.
And then a president was picked from his bedroom. No resistance at all. So there's a lot in play, and as you say, this is a global phenomenon. The decolonization of all people needs to be accelerated, because again, who is to say what is going to happen to the Brazilian president? Who is to say who is going to happen to the Colombian? And remember, this is not the first time. We had the Cuba situation for a long time, but the world went quiet. We must now not start assuming that if it's not happening to our continent or our country, then all is well. Who would have thought that this would have gone on to happen in Venezuela? And one would ask, why can't US just do what they're doing? If they're really exporting peace, why have they not exported peace to Haiti? Right?
Exactly.
So there are a lot of questions there in, but we must agree that we cannot abdicate our duty as citizens of the globe to one country deciding what is democracy and what is peaceful and how you should be led.
As it must be in part in terms of that conversation. The headline on the Standard this morning, even as we wait for Professor Shofi to get here, as we're talking into the state of the nation, is that the question is that who's next? Because President Donald Trump said very clearly yesterday that these guys in Colombia, it's almost as though he was talking about kids in a playground, right, and how somebody's not playing according to the rules of the jungle gym. And he said, who's next? Because this guy in Colombia, he's not acting right. And, we can teach him a lesson. He said the same thing about Cuba and Mexico. But look at those nations as well. Rich in resources, for whom there needs to be some control of those resources by the US. And is that a need? Yes, it is. Because if you control the money, you have the power. Those are the rules of the game.
Yes.
And here we are looking at countries, again, like Haiti. What's happened in Haiti? What control has there been over the years in terms of what has happened there? And then you're going to ask yourself the question, if there needs to be a recolonization of the world, if the geopolitics needs to lean in the way where power is then moved from east back to west, because if we don't know that power has shifted, then perhaps we're living on Jupiter. But the power over time has shifted east. Because economies have grown and they've taken control. In this clamor for the US to gain back its position, this is what we see. That if you can take over countries and you can take over government, that you have some kind of power. You do have might. Right. And we can't run away from those realities. But is it going to be a who next situation? Is Africa going to be the playground where this is going to happen? We know, for example, that during the Cold War was fought on African soil.
Yes.
That's how it played out. Are we going to see that happening again?
No, we need to stand up and redefine all that, because it should not be a crime to stand up against the West. What they say, that if you're not with us, you're against us.
Right.
That's what they did in the Middle East. Remember the Afghanistan story. This is how it started. They went there to clear up the Taliban and many other subgroups. But then that just grew up into something different. There was the Kashmir. There was Pakistan. And there hasn't been any real substantive peace since they went there. But this issue of trying to neutralize their threats, imaginary or otherwise, should not come in at the cost of the entire of the world. Venezuela has a population of people who need to survive and have a constitution that will lead them as they wish to be led.
Indeed.
If they decide not to lean towards the West and lean towards the East, that should not be a crime.
Indeed, it should not. And that geopolitical situation then brings us to a localized conversation that we'll be having about Kenya, and then what happens after that. We'll be looking into this conversation and the state of the nation with Professor Ngure Mwachofi, who joins us this morning as we look into the state of the nation, albeit at 21 past. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning to you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Apologies for Mombasa Road in traffic. I would have been here a little on time.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Some things New Year, but I guess old things remain the same.
Yes, traffic remains the same.
Well, glad to have you in the Situation Room this morning. We're looking into the state of the nation. We've looked at the state of the world a little bit in terms of what's happening in some aspects of that, and we're going to bring that home to then be able to say, okay, well, what's happening here? New Year, but that didn't, things did not start subtly. But we're going to look into that. As we do, we'd like to start off with today's proverb. Our proverbs this week come from Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso used to be called Upper Volta. And it was the home country of the famous Thomas Sankara, who had a vision for the states of Africa. This proverb today is an interesting one, and we'd like to get your interpretation of it. And it says, when the ants unite their mouths, they can carry an elephant. When the ants unite their mouths, they can carry an elephant. What are your thoughts around that?
I agree totally that we are looking at ants as very tiny, and the elephant being the giant that it is. And yet unity is strength. When they unite, they become strong enough to be able to carry an elephant, which applies very well to any situation in our world today, where I think that people have problems because they are not united oftentimes, and divide and rule has been the way leaders have tended to control. Leaders who like to control as opposed to leaders who like to lead.
Right.
They prefer to have that opportunity to divide the ants.
But the ants can come together.
They can come together.
For sure. Let's jump into our conversation this morning, shall we? Yes. The state of the nation, Kenya, where it is today, obviously it's the penultimate year before an election, 2027, and it would seem as though the politics of the day are ruling the roost.
Yeah.
The economy of the country, many have opinions about how that's going, but the opinion of those who are able to put a meal on the table probably is the one that should be listened to the most. Children are going back to school in a time where the straits are dire for many a parent, and with all of this, the government of the day is saying that the first world, or the developed world, is where things are headed. The politics, even before they have an opportunity, have gotten nastier in a few days than they have the whole year. And these are coming from the mouths of people where others have pulled guns on others, and, you know, others have accused others of stealing money that was meant for a thing or two. So that's what it looks like off it. But if you look at it from a governance point of view, what would you say is the state of things 4 years into a new year, a year before an election?
Do you mean if I was the government and explaining to the Kenyans?
Be who you want to be.
I can't pretend to be the government.
Okay.
I can only look back at actually, I'm remembering a 2022 conversation when my friend David Ndi was here. And you were asking him to explain what is the new vision. And he explained that Kenya comes from a post-colonial experience where everything is organized around capital. And the capital has been successful in making the country run, but everything is done for the elite. So he said it's a very elitistic country, and that their new vision was, we are here to make changes because we are going to focus on finance. We shall try to maintain a reversal of the past. And I remember at the end of that program, he was asked, so what is going to make you succeed? And he explained, well, you see, Rigathi, Gachagua, and I are age mates, and we sort of finished school at the same time. Ruto is a little younger, and we sort of belong to that generation which understands that it is not right to maintain the country the way it has gone. And his examples, he gave several examples, including the expressway, which is built for the elite but not for common people. And what is the state of the place today? I look at it as a total failure in the sense that all promises that were made don't appear to have panned out. And we have a situation where the same corruption, which in that discussion David Ndi called it, that's a lame excuse. Corruption is nothing. And in looking at where we are right now, there's not any difference between what he presented as the past that they are going to change and the failures that we are seeing now, where essentially we have a country in which the ordinary people have no voice and they are living in fear, and fear has become the dominant controlling element. And I think that it's a very clear gap between what the government is claiming versus what is really happening as far as the ordinary citizens are concerned. I mean, I walk around my place, I look at I'm living in Machakos County in Katani, and what do I see? Shops closing, stores closing, people pay rent and they discover within a month there are no customers, so now they quit. Meanwhile, they have lost all their deposits. I'm told they pay 3 months deposit. So they are left with zero. And you walk through most places, you'd find there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 20 stalls, and out of those, only 3 are open. The rest of them are closing. So the situation is quite bad. I mean, really, really dire. And I wish that it was possible for the government to start listening to what the real situation is out there. But it doesn't end there, because I have a second component in which I think one of the biggest failures is the extent to which citizens have cowered down to total silence. And people are like, you don't talk. If you talk, you'll be removed. In fact, I get phone calls, and the first thing is, oh, I'm glad to hear your voice, Bwana. You know, we are very concerned, you guys who are outspoken. When we hear you, that at least we know you are alive, so be careful, Bwana. And I'm thinking we are really suffering from a psychological state as a country, mentally sick. How so? Well, because we have fallen silent. And when we fall silent, what happens? The government becomes the rhetorician, constantly creating impressions that everything is going to be okay. And it is not.
Well, Prof, you put it very clearly that promises were made.
Yeah.
And the people gave the mandate to that government upon them being elected into office. And then they were expected to implement the agenda, as you rightly put it, and they had tried to expound it on how they're going to transform this country from the have-nots will have some more, and the haves will pay a bit of more so that we can have sort of an equilibrium. And as Ndu puts it, we are almost a year or slightly over a year into another political discourse to decide how we want to be governed. But you realize that in the midst of this term, the people have said what you promised is not what you are getting, and we are not happy with the direction the country is taking. Then the government, who to me they are the employees of the people, that's how I perceive them to be, have said, no, what you are doing is working. It is you who are not seeing it as you should be seeing it.
Yes.
So there's a disconnect.
There's a disconnect. I call it a contradiction. When you promise and then you don't fulfill, that is a contradiction.
Or a lie.
A lie.
Oh,
call
okay.
it a lie.
Just checking.
Number two, I think there's a significant failure right from the beginning. When you say this is a bottoms up, you are saying I'm going to be listening to the citizens and we'll be implementing what the citizens' needs are.
Correct.
And I'll give you my example again from Katani. We have had some road construction around the center. And to use this, to fix the road on the center, they had to divert the road to another place, our place, another road. It's called Hekima. And Hekima is decimated by the trucks that have been passing through.
Yes.
We thought when the other road is finished, they'll come back and fix this other one. Do you know that some people are now calling for fundraiser so that we fundraise again to fix the road?
Wow.
Why should we fundraise for that which the government
ought to have taken care of?
Yeah, primarily because it went down because of them. And the point I want to raise here is that citizens have accepted this mindset that they just can't, there's nothing they can do. And I'm saying there's something that can be done. I don't see the reason why we can't get together and see the governor of Machakos and say this is not right.
But even as you do that, because, you know, especially when you talk of contracts, whenever there is the diversion of traffic, there has to be contingency measures that will be employed after to make sure everything is taken back to what it was.
Yes.
And I hope you, the Machakos people, get to experience the relief that you do deserve.
Yeah.
But back to now to the national state of looking at that promises were made, they have been broken, they have not been honored. And whenever people have tried to speak out, like yourself and others, they've been told, no, you're making noise, and you have to deal with it. People have been dealt with, some to death. We've seen the uprising that led to the ongoing revolution. I'm holding the opinion that there is an ongoing silent revolution that hopefully will end in the ballot of 2027. But when you say people are silent, do you feel the palpable anger, the social angst that they are saying, in spite of you trying to silence us, we are organizing, but is that organizing taking shape and form as it should?
If I worked for the NIS, I would say yes or no, but I can say I know for a fact.
Right.
What I'm most surprised at is the idea that people know the ship is sinking. It's leaking. It's going to sink in the end.
Right.
So the question is, how does fear help you to avoid saying this ship is sinking? Because ultimately it will sink anyway. So how about you get up and talk and organize and make sure that you don't allow a second term for the president, specifically because he has failed. And if he honors and he remembers swearing to the Constitution that I swear to uphold the Constitution, which is really making sure that the Kenyan people are safe and that their welfare is taken care of, then people should be able to speak up and make sure that this happens. Because my point is that fear is the opportunity given to the government to continue to maintain these conversations that things are going to be okay, and they will not be okay. And so the point is really our fear does not save us. The Constitution is very clear that we are allowed to speak.
Yes.
And I'm speaking because the Constitution allows me to do that.
Correct.
I think it's Article 37, freedom of expression.
Right.
And there's no reason for people to be living in fear, because the more you do that, the more you maintain the status quo. And I think that people should have conversations from the grassroots level, where people in a community are talking about what their needs are, and they don't have to be out there the way the Gen Zs were. And I don't mean that Gen Zs were wrong. It is the government that was wrong in killing those that they killed. And I'm saying this because the more people believe that there's nothing that can be done, the worse the situation will be. And I don't think there's anything that can save Kenyans except rising and speaking up. We are looking at a legislature which has been compromised. It's like we don't have a legislature at all.
We don't.
Why?
It's interesting that you said, I'm sorry, I just want to pick up on something that you said, is that
Please.
you said that the ship is sinking or that it's leaking.
Yes.
But we are just watching watching the leaking thing.
Yes.
We're not even trying to put a bucket on the floor to collect the water or trying to fill the hole.
Or scoop that water out. So it doesn't feel...
Is that the position of Kenyans from what you're seeing, that things are not all right, but that Kenyans seem to have adopted a lackadaisical approach to all of this and just kind of, okay, let's see what happens tomorrow? Is that the case?
I would say that they have taken that like a lackadaisical approach mainly because of fear, and the fear makes them think you are fine in the short term. But if they are looking at the short term, long term, I'm thinking about my grandchildren. What kind of life are they going to have if we don't get concerned about that? What is so useful about me being alive now or safe now if I'm safe to a situation which is horrible? I mean, everybody dies to start with. So the fear of dying is one that I think that people have to overcome by realizing that, first of all of us are going to die at some point. And that the question is, what do we do from the time you are born until you die? You do good things. What is one of the good things? Well, the Constitution requires us to be good custodians of this country. And being a good custodian means speaking the truth.
Well, and those who embrace the spirit of the Constitution and the spirit of liberation and creating a better country for all of us. Gen Z set a good example. They said the fear is gone. And I do agree with you. Fear is not a plan. Fear is not a strategy. Fear is not actionable until it is directed to something. And then you say, this is what I'm going to change because I don't want to continue existing in this same fearful state. But Gen Z set up the pace. They said fear is gone. However, you do have a section of Kenyans who say, no, we don't want demonstrations. We don't want you coming out to the street. You are too young, you need to wait. When you come out to protest, our businesses are run down. But these people who are saying that, they forget that the taxes they are paying are the ones that are being misappropriated, are the ones that are continuing to finance the corruption, because corruption is financed. We have to provide finances for them to be mismanaged. And all of us, in one way or the other, we provide those finances to the country, to the president, only that he does not direct the resources as he should. What do we say to those people who are not willing, perhaps from lack of understanding or from just a myopic view of things and wanting to feel safe for now, not willing to pay the price for the long haul, who come out and say, no, we don't want those dissenting voice?
I'll tell them, first of all, wake up. Wake up to the reality that you cannot expect change while you sit down. Number two, I'll just give you a real example. A young man visited me some time ago and we talked. So he told me, I would like to be part of the demonstrations, but my parents have warned me. They told me, if there's anything like that, run away, avoid being part of that story. So those parents, I'm speaking to them and telling them that's the wrong approach. Because first of all, you are undermining the Constitution. You should be speaking for the right of people to speak, as opposed to telling them they must not be involved. Number two, how many parents have their kids die from car accidents and other things? How different is that? And the difference is when your child dies because they were actually involved in a legitimate story, you cannot blame the child for having been there. We should be ashamed for not joining them. In fact, I would argue that if citizens joined and were clearly organized around this idea, there's no reason why this would continue forever. And secondly, it is a question of realizing that the longer you wait, the more formidable the task becomes. When I hear people saying, I'm not interested in voting next time because it doesn't make a difference, I'm thinking, well, you are helping the system to prevail. I mean, they can just decide to continue because there are no elections, because nobody came to vote. People have to come up to recognize that you cannot change your life by sitting down. The best example I give is two people.
Yes.
They have an acre of land each. And every morning, John wakes up, go to his plot and works very hard. Plowing, weeding, and all that. And the other one wakes up and goes to the plot, but lays down there and just praying. And you tell me in 6 months who will be harvesting?
Yes, John will have a bumper harvest.
Yeah. So
and not courtesy of subsidized fertilizer.
Yeah.
It's courtesy of his hard work.
And I'm saying this because when you look at the rhetoric of government,
right.
You know, we have a national prayer day. We are praying for our nation. It seems that there's a desire to present it like there's a malaise, there's a disease out there that is bothering our country and we're going to fix it. I had Ruto speaking the other day. He was explaining, we are not going to allow these things to continue. We are going to put 5 trillion shillings to make sure that we have real changes. This country is going down. And I'm thinking, well, who should be being spoken to? Are you telling the citizens, or the citizens should be telling you? Number two, how much debt does the country have right now, and where are you going to get your 5 trillion from? Why have you, in these 3 years that you have been in power, why haven't we seen anybody arrested or jailed? And how can you be talking about corruption when citizens have been complaining about so many things, from this airport controversy, and the people who work there are thinking of going on strike because it is said that the Adani deal is still under chini ya maji, is still going on. And I think these are real things. I used to talk to members of parliament, and I find that these days they avoid me. Why? Because I tell them the truth. I tell them, you guys have failed, you have been bought, and you're not interested in the welfare of the citizens, and you should be ashamed of earning money when you know clearly that you're not serving your country.
Then there is another lot, because as you say, this is a beginning of a year where things ought to be shaping up.
Yes.
As we warm up to how we want the country to look like in this year and towards the ballot. I have, and everybody knows this, that there is this collection of politicians who have been rejected by the powers that are in office. And now they've formed a coalition of the deputies. That's how I perceive them to be. The impeached deputy president and his compatriots. And the rhetoric they are driving seems to be not going anywhere, you know, because all you hear is the insults, the sloganeering. Is this what the country needs? Because again, I listen to another section of the countries who are saying we do not perceive them to be the opposition. The real opposition today is we, the people.
True.
And we, the people, shall have our own presidential candidate. Shall chart the path that we want to take towards the ballot. But what do you make of this united coalition of the deputies?
I see, on the one hand, too much desire for people to be in power. And being in power, being an objective, it means they have to look for whatever strategy they can have, and they recognize that unity is strength. That's why they are working as united. The bigger question that has missed throughout, and I would say throughout from the time Kenya has been independent, you know, I happen to be lucky. I lived in the first 10 years of colonial Kenya, and I watched independence. I was in class 3, and the kinds of hopes we had, they have all been dashed. Why? Because people are interested in being in power. So in my view, we are living in a psychological state of a transition from colonial time. Then colonialism is over, supposedly. But people who took over are doing exactly what the colonialists had the agenda for. It's like saying, I don't like how we are being treated, but once I'm in there, I try these shoes, oh, they feel nice. I think things are okay. And that's wrong. You can't run a country like that.
Right.
So these people that you are referring to who have a coalition, if they are very serious, what they will be doing right now is organizing with the communities making sure that the communities are clear. But it will be wrong for the communities to expect these people to organize for them when they have failed them so many times. And so I think it's the communities that ought to organize to make sure that these people are not anywhere. You know, every time I listen to politicians, what do I hear? Oh, we are going to make sure that we remove this man. Well, removing this man is one, but the mindset of the whole country is different. People are living in fear. We have to overcome that, number one. Number two, people have to be organized to the idea that things don't change, we change things.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And if you change things, it means being concerned and making sure that you actually are working towards those changes.
Things don't change, we change things. It's interesting that you say this, because then I have to go back to the mind of the people.
Yes.
And if whether it is a unique situation in Kenya, whether it is a unique situation across the continent, then perhaps we need to interrogate this a little bit more. That I cannot get out of my mind the image of grown men and women taking sweets last year in the run to a by-election. And I judged that for a while. I judged it and I said, how can we have brought ourselves so low to the place whereby how can this leader have disrespected Kenyans so much and give them sweets and imagine that was enough for their vote and they accepted? But then my thought landed on those last two words. They accepted.
Yes.
So what is the state of the nation as concerns the people of Kenya? Because I wouldn't blame that politician anymore.
Let me answer that
because she gave, coming from a place where she knew that they would accept.
They will accept.
So it is the mind of the Kenyan.
Yes.
Either it has been conditioned to the point whereby a little is enough to sell your birthright, but we are accepting of the below mediocre.
True. Allow me.
So who's the problem?
Yes. Allow me to answer that question by taking you back to my profession as a philosopher. First of all actions, everything we do comes from how we think. So in other words, I'm saying thought precedes action. So our choices are products of how we think. Colonialism was managed by making sure that people think they are inferior, number one, and that the English people are the superior. And these people have taken over the same idea and making sure that they plant that thought that, number one, there's nothing you can do. Number three, we are going to be running this country. And every time you hear the president speak, he normally starts by saying, I have decided. You know, I have decided means that I am the one who knows what is happening everywhere. If only he wanted to be in position of power in the most legitimate form, you know how he would have legitimized himself by now? By making sure that he has channels where ordinary people have abilities to explain themselves. And this is my version, by the way. My version is that when you're looking at an MCA in one area, he is in charge of several communities. So he's in charge of those communities. How does he make sure that those communities filter all their priorities to him so that when he's in the county assembly, he's actually representing the voices and the needs of the people? And if that was happening, you can be sure that there will be a clear decision that people are making because they are thinking of improving their situations. But when we continue in the same mindset, to answer your question, why do they accept? They accept because they feel hopeless and they feel that the only thing they can do is to accept whatever they are being given, including bribes when they are given 50 bob or a pack of unga to go and vote for somebody.
But do people know you can have better? I mean, and because this is the thing.
They can have better?
Yeah, because this is the thing that when there are calls for civic education, Prof, and we talk about things like this all the time, is there a situation of awareness where people are in touch with the reality that this is what a member of the county assembly should actually be delivering for you? That when a member of parliament comes and says, I will build this road, do people know actually you won't? Because that's not your job. Well, that is not what a member of parliament is supposed to do.
I hear
people are aware of the fact of the 3 roles that a member of parliament is supposed to actually play, so that when somebody comes and tells you, I will build a road for you, or I will do this, that people can actually retort and say, actually, no, that's not what we want you to do. We want you to go and do 1, 2, 3. Go make a budget that makes sense. Go legislate over matters so that when the controller of budget comes to you, or when the Auditor General comes to you and say you've overspent, send somebody to jail, or that you've mismanaged funds, go legislate so that you can send somebody to be accountable for that money which they have stolen, not taken or mismanaged, stolen. So that when somebody comes and says, I will build a road, you say, sorry, sir, that is not what you're supposed to be doing. These 3 things, and under that umbrella, is what you're supposed to be doing. Are people aware?
I can say I'm hearing those conversations already. So when they hear somebody says, Munaona nimewafanyia hivi, they are very clear. It's not from your pocket, first of all, and number 2, this is what you are supposed to have done, so you don't have to be saying, recognize me, I've done this. Number 2, people are clear that money is being stolen, because if it is not being stolen, where are the projects? Yeah, we have overinflated projects. So people are aware, but when we say people, we are generalizing that everybody is aware. And I'm saying this because when I ask people, have you ever read the Constitution? Not too many say they have. Can you name anything that you know from the Constitution? They would say we have the right to speak, and that's about it. People don't follow the Constitution enough to know that Chapter 6 is about integrity, public participation, the next, and all these chapters are really meant to do that.
So people are not making decisions based on leadership that they imagine will go and do certain things that will make the country better. Is that what we're saying?
People have not woken up to the fact that, number 1, people should be educated so that they know their rights clearly, not just from what they hear on TV. The Constitution is a small book. It is available online. You could just download it on your phone and you can read different sections by and by and get to understand. So my answer is people have not reached that critical point of saying now something has to be done. In fact, what you hear most of the time is, hey, I don't know who is coming to save us. I don't know who bewitched us. So there's always an attempt to have an external explainer of what do you think has happened to us. And I'm like, wake up. It is you who needs to do something.
For a person like you, Prof, who has seen this country go through the first 2 critical liberations.
Yes.
There was the Mau Mau move that brought us the independence.
Yes.
Which you see some countries are fighting for, like Sudan and all that. They're not yet stable.
Yeah.
Then came the second liberation, where you were part of the fight for our human rights, which, accumulatively gave birth to the new constitution.
Yeah.
What happens such that a people decide, like the Mau Mau did? They left the comfort of their homes, their wives, everything nice and sweet about life that was happening then.
True.
And they went to fight. And a lot of them knew they may not come back.
True.
And a lot of them did not go back to their homes, but it gave birth to a new country.
Yes.
Then in the 90s, the same happened. People were tired of the one rule of the one late President Moi. And they came out to the streets. They were not mobilized, they were not paid.
They were ready. Yote yawezekana
bila Moi. They came out, they agitated. We saw horses for the first time out in the streets, trying to clamp down people. What is this that happens that finally triggers a people? Like the same thing happened with the Gen Z, but you see now it's kind of quieting down. But what is it from your opinion happens where a people must say enough is enough? We are going to fagia wote, yote yawezekana, and then we reset the country on a trajectory that we want to see it. What is it that must happen, or what happens?
I'll answer that by using physics.
Right.
That everything requires to meet a certain condition for change to happen. So number 1, boiling water. It has to reach a certain point, then you begin to see vapor. So the idea, and I think it's Karl Marx who said, the people's consciousness is a product of their material conditions. As the material conditions continue to degenerate, these leaders are going to wake up to a surprise, something very similar to that, because they reach what we call critical mass.
Yes.
Critical mass is the temperature that makes water boil. Critical mass is the temperature that makes water become ice. Everything has a stage. So human beings are going through that experience. And I think in Kenya, we are very, very close, if not there already. And so what is required?
What would be the indicators, of that critical mass point, what would be the indicators? What do you see? Because I see people still applauding for not even bad, deplorable governance and leadership. I see people not being, and people ask, why do you get so upset? And I ask the question, why don't you? Why would you be accepting? And I think there are certain pictures from 2025 that stick hard and fast in my mind.
Yeah.
That when I see a picture of a woman on the ground using a shallow bowl to get water out of the ground, that is the color of the skin that is going to be used for cooking and washing.
Yes.
And you're not fed up with a situation like that.
True.
Or that there are 110 children in a classroom not bigger than the size of this studio, and a teacher has to stand outside a window because there's no space in the class to teach. She or he teaches from the window.
Yeah.
And I don't see that people are upset about that. And they say, no, don't put it in the lungs because, I don't know, some drama. But you must be upset about such a thing in order for some kind of change to take place. I don't see people up in arms.
Well, I think that when we generalize people, we mean everybody. Nobody is feeling it.
No, I think they're feeling it. I just don't see a requisite. Because you talk about when you've reached critical mass, there's a boiling that must take place.
Yes.
That boiling we don't see. Or there's a freezing that must take place. Do we see it to the point whereby a shift will happen?
It has not happened to everybody yet. And for some, it is already happening, but it is simmering in there. They're waiting for somebody to do something. You remember the Arab Spring, Tunisia? What it took was for a young man to light himself up.
Right. Yes.
And the next thing is the whole change took place right there.
Right.
So it is simmering.
Okay.
And the balloon is getting closer and closer to exploding. And what is happening every now and then is that you have a member of parliament or somebody who goes and puts a little pin to deflate it so that it doesn't reach that critical mass. And how do you find, what do I mean by that? When you have people who say, everything is fine. Remember when Raila got into power with Ruto? The Luos were saying, now Ruto is a good man. We have the opportunity to eat. That's a pin in the balloon. And I think now we can argue that despite the pin, the balloon has reformed and the pressure is getting back. It is very unfortunate that people are guided purely by their selfish desire. And I think I should talk a little bit about desire. May I?
Yes,
just
please.
To clarify the role of desire. Desire, in my view, can be positive or negative. I have a desire to study, to get a good job. I have a desire to help friends, and so on and so on. But the desire I'm referring to is the selfish desire, the unexamined desire. Socrates said, unexamined life is not worth living. And I'm adding that unexamined desire is the mother of selfishness, and that's the mother of corruption. So what is keeping people? Well, even citizens who are suffering, as long as they have a desire to survive and they think the only thing they can do is to be in good books with the ruling system, then they are becoming victims of their own desire, because they are looking at the short term and their desire keeps them from raising hell, if I may use that word. And so desire is my thesis for explaining why the world is the way it is. And it's not just in the case of Kenya, but the global story. The Europeans, the colonialists had a desire to control. They used all kinds of mechanisms, language, and the structures that they put in place. So we are experiencing structural violence in Kenya, where people are boxed into situations and their own desires to save themselves, the fear and desire are related. The desire to save yourself means you have to be quiet, not understanding that by being quiet, you're actually undermining your own self.
Correct.
So what keeps people from speaking? Because they have this false sense of safety by being silent. And as they realize more and more, and I would argue that people who have lost their children during the Gen Z revolution, or in the case of Albert, I don't think that those people are even having second thoughts about there's nothing we can do. They are as mad as hell, and they are looking for an opportunity for things to change.
It's true, and the unexamined desire that you speak of is clearly playing out, because they're beneficiaries of this regime.
Yes.
And they're the ones who are shouting from the top of the mountain, telling people, no, all is well or is going to be well. Whoever is telling you otherwise is just a distractor.
Yes.
Who does not mean well for us. And us, in that case, is them who are the beneficiaries of the regime.
And that includes a member of parliament who goes to tell the people, "Nyinyi msipige kelele, mambo yanaendelea kuimprove."
Indeed.
Just give the president some more time. And this is a good example of how their own desire to be in good books and to maintain their jobs makes them feel like they should be quiet because everything is fine. Everything is not fine. It is fine in your own desirable form, because essentially what we are saying is we have a structure that has now been occupied by people who are benefiting, and they know the government is a place where if you have a good job, you have all guarantees, you have a driver, a bodyguard, your kids are taken to school because you are a cabinet secretary or whatever, all those privileges. Those are examples of desires that are blinding. Those are examples of desire that, in my opinion, explain what selfishness is about. Yeah.
And, you know, back to the critical mass, we would expect then, as Ndu was saying, that as it's building up, there are some indicators. There ought to be some very active and visible indicators that indeed a people or the people are fed up and they are working towards something. We don't see that. Case in point, the sort of lacking or slow or ongoing, very slowly, the voter registration. You see, the parents ought to let their kids know that it is a civic duty to go and register as a voter.
True.
And then those who are of age need to realize that indeed, for me to help my parents become better,
I have to.
Because everything revolves around a government that we set up by voting.
But then you have the same parent who's telling child, I don't want to see you anywhere near those places. Yeah? So you have a mix of things, some clarity in some areas and lack of clarity in other areas, because again, desire is such a mystery to a lot of people, because oftentimes we are not aware that the reason we are making a particular speech is because we are being pushed by our own desire.
Indeed.
And so what I'm pushing for, and I'm speaking to members of parliament, judiciary, and all that are involved, to start examining what is it that makes you make a decision in a particular form. And in asking that, I'm asking them to examine their desires, because an examined desire, as I've pointed out, is the mother of selfishness, and it's the root cause of corruption, and it's the reason why we are where we are right now, because people are trying to be safe. They are desiring to be safe.
So if we don't desire to fagia water, to drain the swamp, to build a better country, it is not going to happen.
One more point.
Right.
I think that it is quite conceivable that people are there already, and to answer your question, why are we not seeing it? Part of it is because people are careful. They don't want to be shouting that this is how I'm feeling and this is what must be done. I mean, you walk to a bar or some open place and you say, Ruto must go. And you see some people get very angry with you, like, what is wrong with you? Yeah? In other words, people are feeling it, but they prefer to be quiet about it because they are just waiting for what I mentioned, the moment of Tunisia, the Tunisia moment.
Well, it may never come until somebody actually does light himself up, like it did happen in Tunisia. That's it. Well, look, I mean, these conversations are necessary for us to have. I think it would be interesting to see if by the end of January, if 1 million people registered to vote, those would be some of the indicators that we see that people are actually understanding that they can activate their sovereignty. They can activate their power by registering and actually coming out and voting. Because if 200,000 votes tip the scales in the last election, you can imagine what 1 million would do if it is people who are making a decision.
But it is important for the leadership to understand that even if people didn't vote at all and they ended up getting a second term, that they'll be moving into a second term when things are worse. Think of it as an analogy where you have firewood has been drying for a while. We didn't light it up now, so it continues to dry. And I'm saying the fire will be even worse in that case.
You're not the first one who said it, and it seems that that's the position that a lot of folks are taking, that look for a worse situation if you don't take into consideration the thoughts of the people. Professor Ngure Mwachofi, thank you for being here with us this morning, having a conversation around some of these things, enlightening us, and to then be able to give more reasons as to why we must all be part of this discourse. How about that for a challenge, folks? 1 million people registered by the end of February. Let's carry that through and see how it can actually happen. We'll talk more and keep the conversations going. It's 9:02. Good morning.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. 9 people, including 2 minors, have died following a tragic accident involving a bus and a Nissan Matatu along the Nairobi-Nakuru highway. The 1 a.m. incident near Kayole Estate, 10 kilometers from Naivasha, left scores of others injured as the country continues to record a sharp rise in the number of fatal accidents. The accident occurred after the Green Line bus, which was heading to Nairobi from Western Kenya, collided with the oncoming Nissan, killing 6 occupants on the spot. 3 others, including the 2 minors, were pronounced dead on arrival at Naivasha Sub-County Hospital, where they had been rushed for treatment. According to James Bonham from the Naivasha Road Safety Group, the bus was overtaking a fleet of vehicles when it collided with the oncoming bus. The accident occurred 2 days after 6 people died in Kiko Payne, Gilgil, following an accident involving a trailer and a Nissan Matatu. Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen has launched a full-scale government crackdown on illicit brews and criminal networks in Trans Nzoia County. The new anti-narcotics unit will target illegal alcohol and drug syndicates, while a wider operation will go after gangs and crime hotspots, with Murkomen vowing the government will not relent.
Tayari tuko na mpango ya ku crack down mambo ya goons na criminals na gangs kwa hapa Trans Nzoia. Pia nataka niwaambie shida kubwa sana ya pombe haramu hapa Trans Nzoia ni kwa sababu ya porous border. Na kwa sababu rais amelete marching orders na amestrengthen ile inaitwa anti-narcotics unit ya DCI. Nyinyi kwa wiki zijazo mtaona vile tutapambana na wale ambao ni wanabiashara sugu ya mambo ya pombe haramu.
The race to succeed Law Society of Kenya President Faith Odhiambo is shaping up as an all-male contest with polls slated for February. Current Vice President Mwaura Kabata is seeking to replicate the feat achieved by Odhiambo when she succeeded Peter Theory. Last election runner-up Peter Wanyama is banking on a message of principled action, while senior counsel Charles Kanjama, who lost to Nelson Harvey in 2020, is giving it a second try. The 3 candidates have been crisscrossing the country, meeting lawyers in various towns. Recovery efforts are continuing in South Sea, Nairobi, where a 16-story building collapsed last Friday, a day after the body of an unidentified person was retrieved from the debris. Authorities say the recovery exercise is 70% complete and it might conclude soon as rescue teams continue to comb through the rubble to reach one other person believed to be trapped. Nairobi Woman Rep Esther Passaris has called for the resignation of the entire county planning committee as investigations into the collapse continue.
You should see a resignation from the chair of the planning department and the entire committee on planning. Because why would you, as planning department, come here? I hear a year ago this site was visited and questions were being raised. But then, of course, nobody does what they're supposed to do.
Police in Nairobi have launched investigations into claims by Embakasi East MP Babu Owino that he was physically assaulted by Kileleshwa MCA Robert Alai at a restaurant in Kilimani on Saturday. Babu claimed that Alai accused him of being behind alleged social media attacks on his wife and allegedly pushed him, drew a pistol and struck him on the chest and jaw with it.
And before I left, there's one of them who said that, you know, Babu, you will be a governor of Nairobi. Then Alai became mad, and from that point, he stood up, pushed me, saying, you cannot be a governor of Nairobi. You sent people to attack my wife on social media.
The bodies of the 40 victims of a bar fire in the Swiss ski resort of Crown Montana on New Year's Eve have been identified by police. The victims range in age from 14 to 39 years old, with 15 aged under 18. The youngest were a Swiss girl and a French boy, both 14. The group includes people of Swiss, Italian, Romanian, Turkish, Portuguese, French and Belgian nationality. parties, as well as a citizen of the UK, France and Israel. In addition to the 40 killed, 119 others were injured. Most have severe burns, 6 of them so severe that they have yet to be identified. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who were initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't, let me tell you, you saw the other parliamentary group meeting. People went there, sat, listened, looked at him. There was no plenary left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Presidency is fairly interesting in the sense that it will actually take us to a new consciousness.
Swali zile watu waulizi na swali muuliza na shangala ni aje kwani huku kunaendaje?
30 billion shillings annually on travel alone in public service.
A Kenyan can even demonstrate every single day of his life that Ruto must go. That is the only message of his demonstration. That is his right.
That bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and subverts the cause of those who are in the right.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 10 minutes after 9 o'clock into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Monday, the 5th of January. Ndu and Joe Kamanya with you today as we look into very important conversations as we've been having, as we get into them, important for us to have. And it's interesting because the times and tides, they are a-changing. But even as we do today, at this point, we're going to look at the year as it has started and things that you want to do to then be able to rebrand, re-strategize and get into a year, whether you're looking at it on a personal level or whether you're looking at it at a communal level and the places where you're plugged into, whether that be at your career, at your business, or even plugged into the nation. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. And I'll let you know again who our guest is for this hour. But let's look at another way in which you can be winning getting into the year. And how about we do that winning with your KCB winning card? Let's talk about our once in a lifetime chance to win a dream getaway, all thanks to KCB Bank winning card. Here's how it works. If you bank with KCB and pay using your KCB debit, credit, or prepaid card, you get a chance to win every single time you pay. So whether you are buying groceries, whether you're fueling your car, whether you're grabbing lunch or shopping online, just pay with your KCB card and you get a chance to enter into weekly, monthly, or a grand prize draws. So weekly winners walk away with 10,000 shillings. You want to do that. Monthly winners walk away with 100,000. You definitely want to do that. And you also get the grand prize, which is a holiday getaway to Zanzibar for 2. Flights paid for, accommodation done, and exciting excursions taken care of. So remember, paying with your KCB card isn't just safe and convenient, it could actually make you a winner. So the more you pay using your KCB card, the better your chance of winning. Use your KCB card today, the winning card. Terms and conditions apply for sure. But remember, KCB Bank for people, for better. So you're winning there, and let's look at other ways in which you can win this morning. We're going to be looking at re-strategizing. We're going to talk about designing your 2026 personal branding strategy. And like I said, we can push that in and talk about communities and country that we are plugged into at the same time. Joining us for this conversation is Anne Wagaki, who is the CEO of ECG Consulting Group and the author of Purpose for Impact, joins us this morning. Anne, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Great meeting you.
Good to meet you too. Thank you for joining us in the room.
Thank you.
As we get into some of these conversations, we're going to put you to some work. First of all, we go through the African continent every week. Mm-hmm. We land in a different country. Mm-hmm. We come back with their proverbs. This week takes us to Burkina Faso. Mm-hmm. And the people of Burkina Faso are called the Burkinabe, mm-hmm. Made up of different ethnic groups, of course. But they seem to be in concert when it comes to their proverbs. Mm-hmm. This is what it says, and we'd love to get your interpretation of the one for today. Mm-hmm. When the ants unite their mouths, they can carry an elephant. Mm-hmm. When the ants unite their mouths, they can carry an elephant. What do you make of that?
Okay, interesting. Now, that speaks into unity. Mm. That speaks into teamwork. That speaks into one direction. And I think it's very, very key as we talk about this at the beginning of the year, because as an individual or even as a team in your office this morning, it's about unity of purpose. It's about unity of direction. Because when you can carry something together, then as the proverb says, you're able to accomplish so much. Mm. So it's about unity and teamwork. And that's exactly what you need to take this year to the next level. Yes.
Fantastic. So we say Happy New Year, and every time we think about New Year, we think about new things. I was just thinking about the many things that are new this year. People are going to new classes for school, so you have new uniform, you've got new books, people are coming into a new year, so maybe a new strategy. And so strategies are oftentimes that we take audit of the last year and we say, okay, maybe we didn't do this right, or we didn't get this done enough. So then we need to re-strategize in order to make it better in the year to come. Why do we do this?
Okay. It's because strategy is direction. Strategy is focus. Without strategy, then you lack direction. We would be busy running about, doing so many things without clarity of where we're headed to. And so strategy is really direction. And without one, we look like a ship sailing with no direction. And that's why it is very critical to relook and re-strategize as the year begins. Yes.
Well, there's always the hype of relooking, to go by what you're saying, and re-strategizing or setting up strategy or planning. Resolutions, people will call them. There's always the hype to come up with a lot of those at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
However, life is a continuum. Just that at some point we say, okay, this is the end of the last year, now you're getting into another year. But this momentum dies off.
Yeah.
I'm sure by March, if we get to review a lot of the resolutions that have been put up by people at a personal level, corporate and otherwise, things do shift.
Yes.
So for us to have a sustainable strategy or a relook of our lives, whether I want to grow a lot of grass or whatever it is I need to do, how does one get to just restructure themselves internally as an individual, as an organization, as a people, so that you have a sustainable strategy? The resolution does not die off mid-year, and then you're left with consequences of that.
Interesting. That happens all the time, even in businesses.
Yes.
Now, the first thing, as you said clearly, is relook into your previous year, because you'd want to review what you got right and what you did not get right, so that where you had gaps, then we would know these are areas of weaknesses that ought to be addressed. So it's an internal audit, what we call a SWOT analysis, So there is a SWOT event for personal strategies, so that you review your strengths, but also your gaps in terms of your weaknesses. Now, once you do that, we know that we already have a gap in a certain area, and so you know how to work on it. Now, secondly, we want to set goals that are not vague, because most times we have goals that are not clear. They are neither here nor there. Now, they have to be so clear, they have to be measurable, they have to be attainable, they have to be smart. Yeah. And so once we set those goals, again, they have to be not too many. Sometimes, again, we have a whole list of goals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have over 20 things that you want to achieve. Which sometimes is very overwhelming, even for our minds. So you just need a few goals that are must win for you. Now, once you have your must win goals that are clear, then the next thing, we want to break them down into small actionable points. Because again, when you leave them as the high-end goals, they just become some nice goals on paper. You have to break them down into small actionable goals with clear timelines. Now, with that, your mind would easily digest and realize that, if I want to lose, say, weight this year,
Yes.
being a personal goal, I need to just be doing, say, 3 press-ups every day.
No, just don't eat.
You don't know, it's January anyway.
Yeah.
It's what I mean.
So whichever action you choose,
Yes.
but break it down into a smaller actionable win that your mind can digest. That way then, it comes down from the bigger mega goal where you're saying you want to lose 20 pounds or whatever you want to lose to now something that your mind can really understand. So break them down and then now get into the consistency of continuously doing that every day, every week, making it a habit. More than just talking about the big goal somewhere,
Yes.
making it now a daily habit. And that applies even for businesses because, again, sometimes in businesses, we just want to leave our goals as very high-end goals. And there are those big goals that sometimes you look at and your team cannot fathom how you will get them done.
Right.
So to help your team, also break those goals into small actionable plans with timelines, and with a location of who does what, accountability, who does what, at what time, what is priority for us, what is our must win, because as I said, everything cannot be a priority.
Right.
I keep saying that if everything is a priority, then nothing is. So that's very critical so that you build the momentum. And consistency is the name of the game.
So now, as yourself as a CEO of the ECG Consulting,
yes,
what is this that you do that will allow people, first of all, to feel that I need to bring in a consultant to steer our strategy, to spur our thinking, so we can redefine and create that which we want to achieve. What is that mark that people must reach for them to realize I need help, I need to consult, I need to bring in Anne or any other consultancy to help us spur things up? So you could just say, like, what do you do, especially the ECG consulting? What is that all about? And how is the uptake of that service? From just how you're seeing it.
Now, I want to start by saying that Africans have excellent ideas. We have no doubt about that. I talk to entrepreneurs every single day. And oh my goodness, Africans, Kenyans, excellent ideas. But then we have a problem. When I got into this space, I realized that most of us are losing our businesses either to bigger players or our businesses are dying off with the founders.
How so? How is that?
Now, what happens? A founder begins a business. Remember, I've said we have excellent ideas as Africans. And when you listen to it, brilliant. But now, because we fail to create structures, we fail to have systems, we fail to have clear strategies, by the time anything happens to this founder, the business dies off with him. And so what we come in to resolve is that continuity gap, because we need businesses that are built to last. Now, founders know what they need to do in their businesses, and they have so many ideas, but they need help in putting all those ideas together into what to focus on, at what point, how to build these structures, what strategies to focus on and what not to do. You know, strategy is also what not to do. Because it's not just about what to do, it's about also what not to do. Yeah. And so refocusing them onto what really matters, how to build systems that will ensure that this business lasts, how to have clarity of structures, and also how to implement. Because it's one thing to have a strategy, and so many businesses, 9 out of 10, have a strategic plan. But implementation is where the rubber meets the road. Now, we support in implementation because we don't just want a strategy that's beautiful in paper. It is one that is delivering results. And so we support mainly on that implementation so that we now transition that paper, beautiful paper, into real actions and walk the journey. Is it training that is needed? Is it coaching? Is it structures? Is it processes? Can we have those defined? Now, and that is a game changer for our businesses. Because as I said, the only reason why bigger players are buying off our businesses is because they know where to fix. It's a problem of structures. It's a problem of systems. Yeah, yeah, and so that's what we do.
How do you know what strategy is going to work, and that you're not shooting in the dark?
Okay, so before we sit in a strategy meeting, there's a lot of research that ought to be done. And that applies whether it's personal strategy or it's business strategy. You have to first do some proper background research because you want to understand both internal environment and what we call external environment. Now, internal environment is what I mentioned earlier, your SWOT, your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities you have, the threats you have. The external is what most people would call the pestle, which is political factors, economical factors, social factors, tech factors, legal, etc. That would affect your business in one way or the other. You'd also want to look into your customer. Now, that's a very brilliant question to ask because we have so many strategies that fail because sometimes things begin wrong. Yeah. And one of the things that go wrong all the time is that we fail to first understand what problem we are solving. Who is our client? What problem do they have? And so what solution are we giving? Now, the minute we get to understand what our clientele or our target market expects from us, then we're able to come up with a strategy that addresses that specific issue. And so for me, very critical to have that background research, both internal, external, understand your customer, understand the market trends, so that then you have a clear strategy, understand the problem the market is facing, then you have clarity of what exactly you're solving. So we're not just shooting in the air. Sometimes most businesses would want to start off with the product, then push it to the market. That's a wrong move. Businesses that are successful begin with understanding the problem the customer has and designing a solution to address that problem.
But some people do argue, since I'm not reinventing the wheel.
Yes.
I don't need to invest in a feasibility study. I don't need to invest in research. As you say, I can just, wing it, roll with it. I have a product I want to set up. I have a concept. I could easily get on with it. And you see, nowadays in the era of technology, as you say, people Google and YouTube stuff and they become experts in a manner of speaking, only for that not to last or not to go the long haul. So how do we rather transform the people into understanding that, a good plan is as good as it was well thought out before it was implemented? Like trying to wing it. That's why, as you say, a lot of startups don't get to grow sustainably. A lot of mergers, a lot of partnerships, they could come to play in the heat of the moment if the season has been good, but then 6 or 2 or 4 quarters into the future, they collapse. How do you transition people to understand that research, feasibility study, consultancy is not a waste of resources? It's not a waste of good capital, because people say, okay, this can go into a better utilization. How do you transition this?
I love to say that there are 2 types of tasks. There's what we call urgent tasks or urgent matters, and what we call important matters. Now, planning, and proper planning for that matter, and having a strategy is not urgent. Nobody will put a gun on your head because you've not had a good plan. But one day, it will catch up with you. Because important tasks do not push you every single day. But they catch up with you in due time. Now, what is needed in our businesses and in the African market is a mindset shift to understand that there are things that are urgent, but there are things that are important. And so what we're discussing today is not urgent, but it is important. Yes. And so I think it's just that mindset shift for people to understand that we need to do this. Otherwise, we have businesses that have done so well over the years, and we can name a good number of them. But few years down the line, we can no longer hear them.
Yes.
Yeah, because they failed to continuously rethink, research, innovate. And for you to do that, you have to continuously go back into the market to understand what are customers now looking for.
Yeah.
Because what was a priority to a customer 5 years ago is no longer a priority for them. Things have changed.
Yes.
And so we have to continuously relook into that. And if you're not willing to do that, then you fall into what I call a big, scary chasm, or into a deep end where we forget about you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So then, what are those things? We're looking at individuals, whether they're operating as individuals or plugging into an ecosystem whereby it's necessary for you to then remain relevant. What are some of those things that folks should be doing in this year?
Okay. So as an individual, there's what we mentioned earlier on personal branding, which is very critical. Now, the thing with branding is whether you build it or not, it exists. We've had...
whether you build it or not, it exists.
Yes. Even silence
is communication. It's a brand.
by itself, you know?
Yeah.
So it is not optional. The second thing I would want to talk about is that trust is the new currency of doing business. And how you build trust is a proper personal brand, because that personal brand builds credibility with time. And so building a brand or personal brand is no longer optional for individuals. And when I talk about a personal brand, so many people misinterpret it into popularity. It's about how many followers you have. No.
Looks and optics.
It's about clarity of who you are, who you help, and what problem you solve. That's what personal branding is about. Who you are, who you help, and what problem you solve. Now, when that is clear, it's what we call foundations in personal branding. The other foundation is your personal values. So for any individual listening, there are those non-negotiables, personal values. Because as an individual, you must have certain things that are boundaries for you. Things that you know that here we cannot cross. Because this is who I am. This is what I stand for. So those are the foundations. Once you have that in place, then it becomes very easy to continuously and consistently even build your content around it or communicate to your target market of who you are and what you're solving. It's very critical for any individual that you get to have a sit down with yourself and understand who exactly am I and what do I solve? Who do I help? So that from there, you have clarity of every action that you're taking, everything that you post, whether online or wherever you speak to people about, then aligns to what you're trying to solve and who you're trying to help. Yes.
Okay. What happens if you fail? You failed last year because they say the person who failed succeeded on the 8th attempt and failed 7 times. So what happens if you failed in 2025 and you're looking to get up one more time? What are some things you need to remember?
Okay. One is that any successful person has had the urge to give up. I can tell you. Anyone. There are times when even the most successful of people will wake up in the morning and feel like, I have no energy to do this again. But what differentiates those people from ordinary men is that they keep rising up every single time. because nothing really is easy. As much as some of the jobs might look easier to us, they are not. So it's about consistency. It's about the small wins. And I would want to emphasize on the small wins, because sometimes we are too focused on the big mega wins that we forget the small milestones we're able to achieve every single time. So celebrate the small wins. They give you the momentum and the energy to keep running and pursuing those big wins. And so I'm encouraging anyone who feels like we have done this before, it has not worked. It is time to come up again and celebrate each small wins. As I said, break down your goals into actionable plans, actionable, small, minute, you know what they call the atomic habits, into habits. Then once you have that, continuously celebrate your small wins. Then try to also have a team, your small board team, that could also keep you accountable and could keep pushing you and reminding you that you're getting this done, so that then you do not feel like you're just walking the journey all alone. And so, as I said, giving up is not an option, though most times we feel like it, but keep rising and waking up and doing it again. Consistency is the name of the game.
You know, that's the spirit of a gambler. When you speak of small wins, you know, gamblers, they experience the small wins. It gives them the illusion that the big day is going to come. So I don't know how we convert that to positivity, because again, we have to differentiate between the illusion of what may come vis-a-vis a working strategy. But I do hear you when you say that, we don't need to give up, you know, we need to have that consistency. We need to know that these are the steps to take. However, the challenge now comes in, we're in a new year. People are trying to brand themselves. Of course, there are those, the pestle you speak about, factors that are beyond our immediate control. The political climate may change if you're setting up a business. The tax regime might change. Social factors, you know. Remember, a while ago, we had the outbreak. We had COVID. So things will come and go that will throw us off our mark, off our perfect strategy that we have invested in and we are committed to. So how do we rejuvenate, you know? Because I think the toughest thing I've experienced with people is, whether in business or personal journeys, whatever form of recovery or beginnings people are beginning to mark, is that it is easier to give up during the hardest time. But again, what you're saying is that is exactly the time not to give up. So how do we tap into that motivation? What do you say to that person who is going through that hardest point, where giving up is their best option according to them, but it is the worst option according to the plan they have in terms of where they stand, and it is what would propel them to succeed? What do you say to that person?
Okay. I read the good book, which is the Bible. And I love,
if you insist.
I love one verse that says that if you fail in the day of adversity, then your strength is small. Now, having said that, a good strategy is not static, it's dynamic, so that you're able to continuously relook and evaluate and see whether we are still aligned or there are things that we need to change or review based on what is changing. Now, when COVID hit, so many people had proper strategic plans, businesses, individuals. But then COVID has hit. And so do we now wait, or what do we do? It is time to relook into what would work at this moment based on this situation, still aligned to our goals, but might mean us changing a few things here and there. And so a good strategy is one that you keep relooking and reevaluating and ensuring that we're still aligned. It's not something that we document and wait whether things are changing or not. We have to be fixed to this strategy to the very end. So a good one is one that we can continuously review and see, based on this change, how can we adjust this action? How can we adjust this so that we are still aligned?
Okay. So, is it necessary to change or re-strategize every time a new period, like a new year, comes in? Or if you find that it's working, can't you just carry on with it?
Well, There are people who design strategic plans for longer periods. There are people who define their strategies for shorter periods. We have people who do it annually. We have people who do it for 5 years. Some bigger corporates even do it for 10 years, though it's become very difficult now because times are changing very fast. In fact, we have new things every 18 months. And so based on your schedules or your strategy, we could have the 1 year or longer. But it's always good to see what's your focus for every year. Even with the 5-year strategy or the 3-year or 10-year, what's your focus every single year? Because every year would be different. How we looked into things last year would be different from this year, because there are things that we achieved last year that should now push us to look at things differently in this year. And so for every year, the only reason why people keep relooking into their strategy is because you have to approach every year or every period differently based on so many factors, even the wins you had, the gaps you experienced or the challenges you experienced, so that you're able to enter into that new period with a new outlook or a new perspective. So that's the whole idea about re-strategizing every year.
And now I want to shift gears and look now at the consumers of these strategies. A lot of time you will come in, you will help people strategize, they'll have a plan, they'll have a product, they'll have a service they can offer, but they're offering to customers, the consumers. Sometimes we, the consumers, are misled by the presentation, the first impression impact, by the presentation of the would-be suppliers of either a product or a service, only to realize the strategy I bought into actually cannot deliver what I was buying, whether it's a service or a product. And these are market dynamics, because again, the market gimmicks, they keep shifting, and they are all there to woo the customer to come to your corner. So how then would we know, would I as a consumer, if you shift gears because you advise a person to develop a product, a strategy that they're going to serve out there, especially in business. But now these customers, how do I get to look and see, from what Anne said and how they develop this strategy, it can actually deliver for me. It can actually get me to the destination that I want to get to. What would I be looking for when I'm sourcing for a supplier of a product or a service? What are the things, the indicators that indeed this can hold the long haul?
Okay. So I'm trying to listen to what you're saying.
Right.
Are you asking from the point of the client, the owner of the business, or
the customer to the business?
Okay, or the customer to this business that you're working
that you have advised, that you have developed a strategy.
Yes.
Because you've had a lot of enterprises collapse, and they have, for one reason or the other, depending on any industry you can pick, they had taken the customer's resources. They had promised to deliver.
Yes.
That promise was based on a strategy that you had developed, and you is a figurative you.
Yes.
You had developed with them.
Yes.
Then something somewhere along the way, the customer becomes the loser. So how do we put the customer on the lookout? What should they interrogate when they're interacting with a supplier in terms of a strategy?
Okay.
Right.
Excellent. Now, one of the things we are looking at today is looking into a customer, not just as a customer, but as a partner in the business. Because the minute you look at a customer from that perspective, everything changes. Because we stop seeing them as just people we are pushing products to or services to, but we start seeing them as people we are partnering with to support, resolve whatever problem they have by the solutions we are offering. And so as a business, it is every time, and there's one big business in the world that has a very interesting strategy. In every of their meetings, they have a seat, an empty seat for a customer. So they assume the customer is seated there. And so every decision they're making, the customer has to be involved. And so they'll be asking, okay, what would be the customer be saying or what would be their response on whatever we are discussing today? And so the minute businesses look into customers from that perspective, then everything changes. So I would encourage businesses to stop just pushing things to customers, but listen more from customers. As I said earlier, one of the biggest problems I see with businesses, and because I work with a lot of SMEs and sometimes even corporates, is that we want to first design a product or design some solution that we imagine is a solution and then push it to customers or to the market. But the most ideal, and especially in our times, would be, let's first listen to the customer. What is their gap? What is their need? Then how can we design a solution to address this need? Then we do not stop there. We continuously listen to this customer. There's what we call customer satisfaction surveys. And sometimes we want to take them after, say, every month, every quarter, depending on the business you're in, because we want to continuously listen to the customer. Every time you go to a hotel, they want to send you a message and ask, what do you think about our service? Where do you think we should change? Because they want to listen to you. They want the next time you come back, you will be more satisfied. And so that's the spirit and that's the perspective that every business should pick. Yes.
Involve customers so that at least they are your partners.
Exactly.
Now. You could own the decisions together. And hopefully you have a more lasting business that way.
Absolutely.
So how is the uptake of consultancy? Because I've seen some quarters people struggle. They say, if we seek this expert opinion, it might change the direction that we want to go. How is the uptake of, especially in this space, of your consultancy services?
Interesting. Most Africans are beginning to appreciate the need for consultancy. But unfortunately, and I hope we have a couple of consultants also listening to me.
Yes.
We've had consultants who promise but do not deliver. And that's why most people would be thinking, why do I need to really do this, So we have people, again, who just want to copy-paste documents because we've worked for organization A that does, or probably in a certain industry. You want to copy-paste that to organization B in the same industry. It does not work that way. Every client is different. And so you have to customize whatever solutions or whatever advisory you're giving to these customers to address their specific needs or challenges. So consultancy is very critical, and that's why most of the businesses in the West and other places have done quite well, because they actually bring in consultants early enough. And they're able to get clarity of what is priority and what to focus on. So we're seeing a lot of that uptake in the African market. But that challenge that I've mentioned, the fact that we have so many of these people who would just be calling themselves consultants, but then we fail to deliver on the promise. And that is a big challenge to the customers, and especially in the African market where we have so many priorities. You're imagining you have taxes, you have employees to pay, you have people to train, you have all these things to handle. And so you would need someone who delivers on what they promised. And not just deliver, but deliver value. Yes.
That's interesting. When we look at measures for success, obviously, for a lot of people, when we talk about branding and re-strategy and all of this at the beginning of the year, usually we tie it to a monetary value that would then indicate that we're doing all right. But are there other ways that we can monitor and evaluate and say that actually, as a person plugging into ecosystems, I'm actually doing better without, necessarily seeing a money or indicator attached to it. So how do you know you're doing okay even if the kaching is not in the account?
Okay. So we have two types of metrics. And we would call them lead measures and lag measures. Now, lead measures are what lead us to the results you're talking about, like the monetary results. Now, lead measures would be actions or deliverables or successes that might not be the main goals, but then they are somewhere along the way of getting us to the main goals. That's why they are leading us. That's why they are called lead measures. And so it's very critical to measure those lead measures as well, because without them, we're not going to see the lag measure. We're not going to see the final goals that we're looking at. So the lead measures are very critical. Those small wins that I was talking about, those small actions and activities that we get into on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, they are very critical. And they have to be measured, because without them, we cannot see the results we are looking for. And so for businesses or even individuals, even as a personal branding strategy for an individual, you have to look into what are your other small wins. And as I said earlier, celebrate them. If you have your teams, they have made a milestone or they have achieved a milestone. It might not be the final goal, but we are getting closer there. An example would be, we're looking forward to, say, close one big client. Now, for us together, there are what we call, people in marketing would know, we have what we call leads or prospects. So it would mean we need to, say, attend a forum that has, where we connect with, say, 10 people. Now, if we fail to connect with those 10 people, we will never narrow down to the one person we're looking for, one big client we're looking for. And so the fact that we have connected with the 10 people, we have probably done a presentation to them, that is a lead measure. And that should be celebrated as we look forward to getting to the one big client that we seek to close. Because there is now what we call conversion rates in between and all that. So those are very critical, that you have your smaller wins with timelines that you can be looking back at and saying, by end of this month, we had planned to have, in our pipeline, maybe 20 new leads, and we have them. That calls for a celebration, or that should be, okay, I do not mean that we now call for a party and,
Should be acknowledged.
Should be acknowledged.
As that we are on course.
Exactly, yeah. So that then this is what gets us to what we are looking at, the bigger goal that we're looking at. Yes.
Okay. So for folks who may have never had a strategy, ever, as in it doesn't even come to your mind, like, okay, so they're starting off the year, I need to do things a little bit differently, regardless of whatever, position that you are in. You never thought the need to actually put things down. The question is, all these things that people are doing, I'm seeing people doing vision boards. I'm seeing people writing things down, resolutions, and they're thinking, okay, we just get up and we go. We try the best you can do every day. You have a plan for the day you get through. Are they justified in that thought?
Now, as I mentioned earlier, anyone without a strategy is like sailing a ship with no direction. We do not know where these ships should stop. We're just continuing. And so a strategy is not optional. And when you talk about a strategy, it's not complicated. We don't mean the big, documents that are so complicated that you cannot understand. We mean something simple that comes down to your level. Whether you're an MSME, whether you're an individual that has never heard about a strategy, we're saying, could you have a plan that says, this is what you want to achieve, so that you have direction and focus. These are the goals you want to achieve, and this is the breakdown of activities. These are the timelines, and this is what I do or what every person does. As simple as that. So it's not a complicated document, but it is what gives us direction. Because most times we have so many ideas in our minds, even as individuals. Your mind is so scattered with so many things. And I've seen so many people trying out 1,000,001 things. You want to get into, let's say, selling clothes. So you get into that, but immediately you get into it, you realize, I have actually seen a better idea. I have actually seen people putting up a laundry place. And you feel like this is even better. So you either leave that or still have it, then you go open the laundry place. Before long again, you open something else. And so you have no focus really or direction. Everything is everywhere. And so a strategy gives you direction. It gives you focus. And any business that has gotten it right, or any individual who has gotten it right over time, are people who are directed, who have a plan, really. And that's why people now design the vision boards and all that. But as I said again, those vision boards have to be broken down into habits, into daily habits, so that they are actionable. They're not just some goals nicely put on your wall there, yeah? So they have to be things that we can action upon and that we continuously review. Yes, so this is now your call to get a plan in place, whether as an individual or as a business, because that's again what gives you a competitive advantage, sets you apart. Yeah.
So a strategy gives you more chances of getting it right.
That's right.
Although at a cost. But nothing's for free. So if I'm looking for a consultancy, or a consultant to come in and offer us strategic direction or help us even develop a strategy, what should I be looking at? Because as you said, there are many out here.
Yes.
So what do I look at? We know what should, like if I'm looking for a doctor, I would go and maybe I look at the wall, they're hanging the certificate of qualification from this body that authorizes and regulates practice. So when seeking, professionally speaking, for a consultancy firm to engage, what are some of the things I should be looking for and looking at?